and live horse racing from Windsor, Ripon and Roscommon at 7 on Sky Sports 3.
This is Sky Sports Live.
Scotland's Dario Franchitti is on a roll. Although he's raced on the other side of the Atlantic with success for close on a decade, 2007 is proving something of a breakthrough year. He hit the headlines with a career-topping win in the Indy 500, but has followed that up with victories on the short tracks of Iowa and then just a week ago in Richmond. But now the IndyCar Series switches to a track which should appeal to Dario's love of motorsport's heritage, the former US Grand Prix track at Watkins Glen. Can he increase his championship lead in the Camping World Watkins Glen Grand Prix? Hello everyone, the British Grand Prix has been run and won amongst Hamilton hysteria at Silverstone of course, but our motor racing day is far from done. Coming up, great action from a track which has seen many a classic Formula One race, Watkins Glen of course, in the beautiful Finger Lakes district of Upper New York State. It's a change of culture for the Indy teams and drivers as they switch from the short ovals of Middle America to a traditional road course. It's the third time they've raced here. To discuss the difficulties of making that switch and plenty more besides, I'm joined by our IndyCar experts Paul Cherry and Tim Scott. But before we speak to them, let's catch up with the headlines. Helio Castroneves has kept his unbeaten record of pole at Watkins Glen. He starts first for the third year running. But Scott Dixon has won both previous Glen races and starts beside him. Dario Franchitti is chasing his third win in a row and starts third. But fellow Brits Darren Manning and Dan Weldon are back on row 5. So Paul Cherry, it's a track of course, different environment compared with the ovals that we've seen so many of just lately. What's the big deal as far as these tracks are concerned? How are the teams making that transition?
Well, first, as we laughingly say, they have to turn right instead of left. Watkins Glen has changed quite a bit since I was there last with the US Grand Prix many years ago. It's a little bit safer, not a lot safer I'd have to say, but a little bit safer. But it's a very demanding course. It's up and down, there's a lot of action, there's a lot of technical input needed for the teams and the cars. And obviously changing from their traditional setup to run open DFC sort of things takes a little bit of getting used to. As we see later on, you know, we've got people like Dan Weldon mired in the middle.
Dario Franchitti looking for his third win on the bounce, as we say here in broadcast land. But of course there's not too many people that can switch from ovals to street type circuits quite that easily. Dan Weldon of course is one that's managed to do it, and I think Kenny Brack is another one that's done it well in the past. How do you see it panning out today, Tim?
Well, certainly Dario absolutely loves road course racing, and he relishes the challenge that Watkins Glen gives these drivers. It's an up and down sweeping circuit, it's got very challenging corners, and Dario he loves the history of the sport, he loves this kind of road racing. So although he's made his career in ovals, he's one of the very elite of these guys who can do both very, very well.
Well, doing very, very well in qualifying as usual. He's managed to make 3 poles out of 3 meetings here at Watkins Glen. Castroneves, but of course it's Scott Dixon that's done the business in the last 2 races here.
Yes, Elio's put it on the front row much as Lewis did yesterday, but when it comes to payday, Scott's always been there to blow him away, and Scott's definitely admires this track, gets a grip of it. Elio's had a lot of problems, maybe this is his year, but don't underestimate Scott, he wants that trophy.
Indeed it is. Well, it's Dario Franchitti that actually leads at the moment in the championship. Let's take a look at the standings as they are at this moment in time going into Watkins Glen. Here it is then, with 3 wins, 8 top 5 finishes. He leads the points for the first time in his career. Scott Dixon has 4 runner-up finishes among the 7 top 5 finishes this year, but he's yet to score a victory. Dan Weldon dominated early with 2 wins in the first 4 races, has 2 thirds in the past 5 races, but also 3 finishes of 11th or worse. Tony Kanan's there, Sam Hornish Jr. It's pretty close in the remaining top 10. Scott Sharp is there. Danica Patrick, best of the ladies, in 8th place at the moment. Vida Mira and Thomas Schechter round out our top 10. Differences with the car, Paul, if I can come to you to the technical stuff at the moment. Obviously, they've been going round and round, turning left. They've got a few right-handers to manage with at this particular point. Also, if it rains, we can change the wet tyres. Makes it a bit more traditional from a motorsports point of view in Europe, here at least. What do they do to the cars to make them that much different?
Well, they straighten up the suspension because, as Nigel Mansell famously once said, car set up like that looks like it's been in an accident. But that's how they're set up for ovals. It's completely different to anything we would run here in Europe. But when they get on a road course, it's pretty much a traditional setup. They go back to a limited slip differential instead of a spool which fixes the rear axle as it is on the ovals. So the advantage is that, you know, the traditionalists who we have at the front of the grid are all used to this. The thing we have here also is we're looking at the weather. It's predicted there may be some thunderstorms. We saw wet tyres in our build up there. If it rains, unlike with our oval races where unfortunately everybody has to watch and listen to us, we'll carry on racing and they'll put on the wet tyres.
Darren Manning qualified in front of Dan Weldon. Tim, he's going to like it wet. This could be a track for him. He's a proper racer.
Absolutely, he's cut his teeth through the European system of road racing. He loves this circuit. He hasn't actually raced here before, but he's tested here, and I think, you know, where sometimes his equipment limits to what the results he can get on the ovals, in an AJ Foyt car which finished 5th last year, not with him driving, he can get a really good result today, and out qualifying Dan is good.
Certainly is, particularly for Darren Manning, of course, who we're talking about. The formalities are getting underway at the Glen, but we've enough time to take a quick break now. We'll see you in a couple of minutes.
St Helens, Bradford, Leeds, Wigan. The top 4 in Super League in 2 big games.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Sponsored by Stan James, starts from Thursday 7:30, Sky Sports 1 and HD1.
How's it going? Southern Comfort? Southern Comfort.
Yeah, SoCo. SoCo for everyone.
You get it started every time we're together. You brought us back one by one. We start the party with the usual suspects. We stay together all night long.
You can't teach an old dog new tricks.
Brilliant.
But who needs new tricks?
Here's a chance. Oh, what's a goal?
Masters Football, Saturday 7:30, Sky Sports 1 and HD1.
Welcome back to the Camping World Grand Prix of Watkins Glen as the season enters its second half. It's Dario Franchitti who leads at the moment, and we can hear from him now at trackside.
You're the road course master. What would it mean to get one on a road course here today at Watkins Glen?
It would mean a lot. I love driving here. I love driving all the road courses. I just haven't got it together yet between myself and the team. We need to do a better job at these places, and hopefully today's the day.
Today's the day indeed. Well, we can only hope that. Let's talk about, though, at the moment, the man that has had such a good time in the IndyCar Series, Dan Weldon. What's been his problem in qualifying? Tim, if I can come to you.
Well, he basically admits that he just wasn't quick enough. There was no particular mechanical or setup issues with the car. He just didn't have the speed. It's the first time Ganassi have used the Dallara chassis at this course rather than the Panos that they've won with the last 2 years. But Dan has never matched Dixon here. I just don't think he's perhaps quite in the elite with the other guys at the front on this kind of course.
It'll be interesting to see if he can pick the pace up as far as that's concerned. We touched on it just before we went off for the break. Darren Manning, he's one of our favourites here in the studio. Can he do something a bit special, do you think, in your opinion, Paul?
Possibly here, yes. I mean, predictably with the weather would make a big difference and help him. He's absolutely fantastic in the wet, as I can testify to. But also, he hasn't got the equipment, as we know, to run at the front. But on the road courses here, he'll pick a few people off, and if he has a clear run, I can see him finishing in the top 6.
Well, of course, Watkins Glen is coming up in just a moment or two. We can go across to the track in just a moment or two and try and pick up exactly where we are as far as the grid is concerned. And first of all, we'll come back here because the grid's not quite ready for me. I'm in front of the grid already. Paul, your money, who's it on?
My money, I think you'd have to be a fool not to put it on Dixon. He's been very fast here, and I think he will make a blistering start. And
what about Tim?
I'll go with Elio. He's on pole for the 3rd time. He hasn't won it. He's going to be super hungry.
Well, as you can see, the Watkins Glen Grand Prix is about to get underway. Let's cross now then to our commentators and find out what the very latest is from trackside.
There are some guys that we had anticipated qualifying up toward the front just didn't qualify well. In fact, Thomas Scheckter back in the 13th position. Scott Sharp, a 2-time Trans Am champion, a road race veteran, back in the 14th position. And Dan Weldon, you heard from Dan there, he starts in the 10th position. So he has a long way to go from mid-pack.
Well, they're going to have to use some pit strategy as well as just fast race cars to move up that far, let me tell you.
You see the cars with drivers on board in the pit lane. They'll leave from the pit lane and have one parade and then one pace lap before we turn them loose for a 60-lap event here on this 5.4 kilometer event. As we take a look as the cars roll away, here now is your starting lineup. Once again, for his 3rd straight pole position, Helio Castroneves, but he could only muster a 12th and a 7th the last 2 years. But Scott Dixon has won here the last 2 outings. He starts outside the front row. Dario Franchitti is on the roll. He's won the last 2 races on the short tracks, and of course he leads the point standings. Tony Kanaan was 2nd here a couple of years ago, and he's tied for 3rd in the point standings. On the inside of row 3, there is Sam Hornish doing a lot of practicing on road courses, not in one of these cars, but a similar car. Marco, of course, won on a road course at Infineon late last season. In the 4th row on the inside, a good qualifying effort for Buddy Rice. And Vito Miri, you heard him talk about keeping the momentum up, keeping the speed up, late braking. He finished 2nd here last year. Darren Manning drives for A.J. Foyt, his best start since the road course at St. Petersburg. Dan Weldon, one of the more experienced drivers, he starts back in the 10th position outside row 5. In the 6th row, there's Kosuke Matsura. Jeff Simmons making steady progress both in qualifying and in racing this season for the Ray Hall Letterman team. In the 7th row, Thomas Scheckter has to be disappointed. He's the road racing veteran, did not qualify well, nor did Scott Sharp, again a 2-time Trans Am champion, a racing veteran on road courses. These, a disappointment for Danica Patrick back inside the 8th row. A.J. Foyt has very little road racing experience, didn't expect a whole lot from him, nor do we expect much for Ed Carpenter because he's not a road racer. And Sarah Fisher actually pancaked the guardrail during her qualifying run yesterday, so we don't expect a whole lot in road racing from Sarah as well.
Well, let's take a look at this racetrack here at Watkins Glen. 5.4 kilometer road course, 11 turns, very fast corners. You don't get down to very slow speeds on any of these corners. The drivers like it because of that speed. Let's take a ride with Scott Dixon for 1 lap around this race course. Down the front straightaway into turn 1. You have to get through turn 1. Most important corner on the race course, because if you make a mistake here, you're really going to pay for it. Because out of here, you're flat to the floor. Through 2, up the hill. Through 3, you're never off the throttle. You're shifting gears all the way through here. Through turn number 4 and down the long back straightaway. This is the fastest part of the race course and one of the best places to pass, especially if you made a mistake back in 1. Then it's hard on the brakes. A lot of passing here on the braking, going into the chicane, through the chicane, off the bumpers on both sides, and into a right-hander that's turn number 5. This is newly repaved, very grippy. The cars are not having much trouble through this corner. Then through the big sweeping left-hander, which has also been newly repaved. Very good grip through this corner. Then it's downhill. We're now in what they call the boot here at Watkins Glen. Down the hill into the toe of the boot. This is a 180-degree corner. Big, sweeping, fast corner. You've got to get off of this, though, too, because there's a pretty long straightaway you can get past if you make a mistake. down this part of the course into turn number 8. This corner is the heel of the boot. You go around this corner, and you've got it's kind of a slick corner, and it's wiggling around a little bit. Up the hill into turn number 9. This is the slickest corner on the race course. This is one everybody said they're having a lot of trouble with. Through that corner into turn number 10, which is a sweeping left-hander, pretty fast corner. Then you come into turn number 11, which is the last corner in the front straightaway. Again, you got to get around this corner because you'll get past going into 1 if you don't get off turn 11 really well.
Well, so pit strategy may play a role for some of these guys that did not qualify well yesterday.
328-kilometer race, 18 to 23 laps is the pit window. I think you're going to see, especially a lot of guys, make that first pit stop close to 18 laps so they can get good track position. And of course, Helio Castroneves starts up front, the best place to start on this race course.
Beautiful racing facility, been here since 1956. As you take a look at what some of these drivers have done on the road courses, and there's a look at Castroneves, who has won twice at St. Pete. Of course, Dixon has won twice here at Watkins Glen. The other 3 road course events won by Andretti, Kanaan, and Weldon. This, of course, was the scene of the U.S. Grand Prix from 1961 through 1980. They actually began racing here in Watkins Glen on the streets in 1948. In fact, the village of Watkins Glen, with a population of 2,100, hosted the first sports car road race following World War II. They actually ran on the roads leading into, through, and out of Watkins Glen, and they actually stopped the trains, Larry, so the racers could safely negotiate the train tracks.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to be seeing too many trains at this race course, but this is a very, very fast race course. We're going to get the green the next time by, but it's a very fast race course, so you want to get good track position. It's kind of a hard racetrack to pass. There's only really 2 or 3 passing opportunities on this race course, so a good start's very important.
But most of the drivers would tell you the reason they like this track is because it's so fast. You mentioned only 2 second-gear turns, and the rest is a pretty fast racetrack, and drivers like it when it's fast.
Well, and that's right. And this place track, other than turns 8 and 9, they say has a lot of grip. They're not having a lot of trouble with it. Some of the drivers, though, say that their cars have felt twitchy this week. They haven't felt as good as they have in the past year for whatever reason. Where they've got the new pavement down in turns 1 and then also in 5 and 6, they're a little better, but the rest of the race course is not exactly what they want it to be.
Well, the pace car is off the racetrack. The field now belongs to Castroneves. His 3rd straight pole. Alongside, though, is Scott Dixon, who's won the last 2 outings. Now, remember, that first turn is a right-hander. And hence, as you take a look at the starting lineup, and boy, it looks like Castroneves wants the good jump.
Yeah, he wasn't taking any chances.
There's the green. As they climb up the hill, how about that gutsy move from Franchitti? This is his championship to win, but he was not at all conservative at the start. Made it 3 wide, moves up to 3rd position. He's battling for 2nd right now.
Boy, he is making some moves on Scott Dixon already. Scott Dixon did a good job hanging in there. Ooh, he got a little wiggle right there. But Scott Dixon did a great job holding him off as he had the outside line, and I thought maybe he was going to get around him going through turns 2 and 3.
We saw Ed Carpenter off course on the about the 3rd turn. Of course, Eddie came up through midgets and sprint Silver Crown cars on both dirt and pavement and has virtually no road race experience, so he's out here to learn and have a good time this afternoon.
You can see everybody else right now just kind of sorting things out. They did have a practice session this morning, so they do know pretty much what the race cars and the racetrack's going to be like. Castroneves pulled that way to a couple car lengths lead right now.
Well, I think the fact that this track can be difficult to pass on is exactly why you saw that initial move at the start by Franchitti to see how many drivers he might be able to pick off.
Ooh, look at this. That's Scheckter who got in under Rice and got around him, and so he made a pretty gutsy move right there.
Scheckter has not been happy this weekend. In fact, Schecter's not been real happy, I think, over the past 2 or 3 race weekends. He's not happy with how the car is performing. Was not happy with how he qualified yesterday.
Now, he hasn't been real happy with the car, but he thinks the car is okay. He just thinks they need to do some things to get it a little better, and I'm not sure what he wants to do or what they need to do, but he's not as happy with the race
The
car
team in practice this morning offered to make some changes, and he said, no, leave the car the way it is.
Well, which indicates that he likes it okay, but for some reason they're just not quite as on the mark as they maybe should be. Look at this, Dixon up there challenging Castroneves down that long back straightaway. He gave him a look and at least made Castroneves think about it as he went into the chicane.
Well, this is a track where it's difficult to pass on, so it's almost a matter of waiting for the guy in front to make a mistake. And when you talk about Castroneves, well, normally we'd say he wouldn't make mistakes, but last week we saw him make that mistake, which gave him a drive-through penalty.
Happens to everybody sooner or later. That's the toe of the boot. That's down in the bottom part of the racetrack, the big toe of the boot where they go around that 180-degree corner that we talked about. Now this is turn number 8. This is the heel of the boot. This is one of the corners the drivers talked about being so slick. Hornish back there looks like he's getting a little anxious as well.
We'll talk about the game plan for Hornish because he struggled somewhat on the road courses, and Roger Penske has him out practicing as much as possible, and it's all legal because it's not one of these cars.
Well, that's right. He's done a lot of practicing. Every time they have a few days off, he gets in the car and goes to Putnam Park, which is close there to Indianapolis or someplace, to get a few laps in. But they've been using a Champ car, a car that's not one of these cars. They set it up as close as they can to one of the IRL cars, and he goes out and just runs and runs. And obviously he's a good study because he's been very quick. He was in the top 6 in qualifying.
He was 3rd overall after the individual lap qualifying, and then started in the 5th position this afternoon. So Hornish and Weldon on the racetrack right together. They run in the 7th and 8th.
Yeah, he's fallen back to 8th place, but still, Weldon's moved up a little bit. He's fallen back slightly, but still doing a pretty nice job here. He just needs to get through the race without making a mistake. That's been his downfall. Sooner or later, he'll make a mistake, and that costs him pretty big time.
As they work on lap 3, it is Elio Castroneves, then Scott Dixon. Dario Franchitti rides in 3rd. Tony Kanaan is 4th. Marco Andretti is 5th. 6th is Vito Mira, who finished 2nd here last year. Dan Weldon now is 7th. We showed you that battle with Sam Hornish at 8th. Darren Manning is in 9th. Koski Matsura is 10th, and it's Buddy Rice, Thomas Schechter, Jeff Simmons, Scott Sharp, Danica Patrick, A.J. Foyt, Ed Carpenter, and Sarah Fisher.
Wow, look at Hornish, very aggressive. He goes to the inside. He's going to make the pass on Weldon. Very aggressive through that corner, just stuck his nose in there. And look at Manning. Here comes Darren Manning. He's gaining on him right now.
And he takes a look to the inside, and he makes the pass. And right now, Weldon does not look up to full song.
Boy, something seems to be the matter.
Here comes...
Nope, didn't make it. That's Matsura back there who's going to try to put a move on him, it looked like, but he didn't make it. Weldon got going again.
He lost 2 positions in 2 turns, unlike Weldon.
Yeah, not very often you're going to see that. But once he lost that position to Hornish, he was kind of out of position on the racetrack and had lost his momentum. We heard the drivers talking about this is a momentum racetrack. You've got to keep up the momentum. You've got to keep up the speed. And once he lost that speed by having to be on the outside of that corner, he was a sitting duck for Manning, and Manning took advantage of it.
Well, Castroneves has led from the start. We had 7 leaders last year, only 5 2 years ago. But remember, the weather and racing conditions much better today than they were the last 2 outings here at the Glen. That's a look at AJ. That's a look at Manning. Manning driving for A.J. Foyt, now back in 8th position. He had his best qualifying effort since the road course at St. Petersburg. In fact, in 2 weeks, we'll be back on a road course at Mid-Ohio. And then over the end of August, we'll be at Sonoma, at Infineon. And then over the Labor Day weekend in this country, we'll be at that Belle Isle race course in the Detroit River. So right now, working on lap 4, Castroneves has that lead over Scott Dixon, Franchitti, Kanaan, and Andretti.
You think you know what's coming? You don't have a clue.
I need someone who can look at a crime scene one time. It's not surveillance. You guys have figured out a way to look into the past.
You cannot change the past. It's physically impossible.
You think you know what's coming? You don't have a clue.
Denzel Washington, Deja Vu, now shown on Skybox Office and Skybox Office HD.
Foster's Super Chilled. Well, you wouldn't want a warm beer, would you?
And all the people of the lulled and dumbfound town are sleeping now. Hush! The babies are sleeping. The farmers, the fishers, the tradesmen and pensioners, cobbler, schoolteacher, postman and publican, the undertaker and the fancy woman, drunkard, dressmaker, preacher, policeman, the webfoot cocker women, and the tidy wives. Only your eyes are unclosed to see the black and folded town, fast and slow, asleep.
Welcome back to the Watkins Glen Grand Prix. You join us here in the Sky Sports studio. With me are Paul Cherry and Tim Scott. Paul, if I can come to you first of all, Darren Manning making a good fist of it from not a particularly great grid position.
No, I mean he's on the grid where he would be. AJ Foyt traditionally doesn't do any testing, so every second that Darren gets in the car is generally at a race meeting. And as predicted, he's making good progress. Nice move on Dan Weldon.
Brings me nicely as well to Tim then in that particular case. Dan Weldon looking a little out of sorts. 2 places in 2 corners, being duffed up by the look of it at Watkins Glen.
It was a bit odd there, wasn't it, that he lost out and then he didn't really defend Darren Manning that much. He started really well, got up to 7th, but then, I thought he might go and chase the leaders, but he slipped back.
Well, he is struggling a little bit. We can take a look at it now, and Dan Weldon not looking quite the man that he would normally want to be, particularly here. It's all rough and tumbles around Watkins Glen, and really found himself out a little wide there, probably still recovering from the pass previously.
Oh, without a doubt, but it's very strange. I mean, he was very good at St. Pete, and he's just come here and just been nowhere. So they tested at Mid-Ohio. Hopefully he can regain some form, but at the moment he's just like a fish out of water.
Long way to go still in this Grand Prix though. Let's go back to the track and our commentators.
Stone did give them another set of tires. They had 9 sets of tires instead of 8, but that was mostly because they had 4 practice sessions here. In most racetracks they have 2, maybe 3, but this is the most practice sessions they've had at any racetrack so far this year.
Through the chicane, you're right along in 2nd place, following Castronevitz. That's the gap between the top 2.
You can see Scott Dixon. Just watch his hands through this part of the race course. You can see downshifting here into the entrance to the boot, going down this back part of the course into the toe of the boot. Downshifts again.
Watch him work that steering wheel.
Now let's watch him through these next 2 corners. These next 2 corners are the 2 corners that everybody complained about being the slickest corners on the racetrack. Let's see if he has to work harder during this part of the course than anywhere else. You can see right there, he was doing some steering coming off that corner to keep the thing under him.
Same thing right there.
Yep, a little bit. It didn't look near as bad as they talked about earlier. He was just driving the race car pretty normal, and especially in turn number 9. I thought it would be a lot slicker than that.
We talked about cautions playing into the strategy. The most cautions we had 7 last year. We had 5, we had 4 in 2005.
Now, cautions are always going to be a part of it. If the more cautions you have, the more opportunity you have for pit stops, and to change pit strategies, and to do all sorts of things. You can run longer if you've made a pit stop under the yellow. So a lot of things, a lot of important things happen when you have a lot of yellows.
Larry, we talked a lot about the G-load and the stress those drivers were going to feel the last couple of races at Richmond and Iowa. The drivers take a pounding here, but it's really a different kind of pounding than they took at Richmond and Iowa.
Right. This is not a G-force type pounding. This is not a stamina type pounding. This is just a shifting gears, fighting the wheel, turning everything. This is a cardio type stamina where your heart rate does get higher because you're working really hard. These guys, this is hard work, shifting the gears, making rights and lefts. All those this thing's very, very physically demanding. And if anybody's not in good shape, it's going to show up near the race. But
Is this the type of racetrack where the drivers want to have good cardio, but they say to be in good racing shape, you have to race to get in that type of shape?
You have to race, but you see guys out here, you see them every evening and every morning. The ones who stay in their motorhomes, you see them out running around the race course or running through the parking lots. So they're all in pretty good physical condition. I don't think there's anybody here. We always talk about Tony Kanaan being running in those triathlons and so forth. But all these guys are pretty good athletes. I don't think there's any of them that take this lightly anymore.
I saw you, Larry, for all of our viewers. I saw you after practice yesterday running. But that was to the hot dog stand, wasn't it?
That's right.
It was not for cardio. That was for calories.
Yeah.
Well, there's a look at Scott Sharp, who and Simmons right behind him. That's 14th and 15th. And again, Scott Sharp has a wealth of road racing experience. In fact, he's a two-time Trans Am champion, a sedan series in this country, but still did not qualify all that well yesterday. We saw him run well the last couple of weeks, though.
Yeah, but this team has really picked up the pace over the last few weeks. Scott Rimke, kind of the team manager, he's the guy who really is happy with the improvements that they've made. They've been qualifying a lot better. They've been running a lot better. And I think Simmons especially.
And these are teammates.
Right, they're teammates. So they're both, the whole team has picked it up. And they've been pretty happy with that whole thing.
Well, Sharp's crew has laid out for his pit stop, and this is very early, Larry.
Yeah, if he comes in now, he's definitely going to be on a 3-pit strategy, which, who knows, anything can happen, anything can work. And if you're in the back...
He has nothing to lose by
absolutely nothing to lose.
Getting off sequence.
If you get the right track position, you might be able to gain a lot. Let's see if he heads in this time.
Glimpse of Bobby Rahal there, the team co-owner with television talk show host Dave Letterman. Rahal, of course, the 86 winner of the Indianapolis 500. Let's see if he peels off and heads for the pit lane this time by.
Yeah, he'll be peeling off right here after this next corner if he's going to go in.
Yep. He is.
Heads down.
Okay, watch your speed now. Watch your speed coming in. Pits are wide open. Here we are. Let's hit our mark.
Well, that's interesting, if that is pit strategy or if there's a problem, if there's any major adjustments. Slight wing adjustment on the right front. Now this, of course, is the same type of wing they're using on the short tracks, and the short tracks we've seen the last 2 weeks.
Well, at this point, he will be able to stay out there and lead a few laps, and maybe that's the strategy. Maybe if he's out there in the lead and the yellow comes out, then he gets going at the same time as everybody else, and he may pick up some huge track position. So this is definitely a strategical move on their part. May pay off, may work really well for him.
Well, you see the first three have started to pull away from Kanaan. Kanaan finds himself now almost a little over 5 seconds behind Castro-Neves, as Elio has led every lap so far.
Yeah, and he's done it pretty easily so far. After that first lap, the first 4 or 5 guys have stayed pretty much in line. So we're right along here with Simmons.
Talking about leading laps, of course, Dan Weldon has led 31.5% of the laps coming into today's event. Frank Healy has led just over 20%, and Castro-Neves coming in led 18.8%. Of course, that percentage will pick up. Scott Dixon, the only dry well. Scott has completed all but 1 lap of competition. Remember a few years ago when Tony Kanaan won the championship and he completed every lap of competition? That's the first time that had been done. Scott Dixon has completed all but 1 lap so far this season.
All 3 of these guys running up front, very quick, all running just about the same lap times. They haven't varied very much. Nobody's made a mistake. So pit strategy and pit stops are going to mean a whale of a difference between who comes out ahead on this next when they do make their pit stops here in about 8 or 9 laps.
Larry, from a standpoint of strategy, is there really any need to press this early in the race or simply run in lockstep as they are here?
Well, I think they're all pretty happy with their race cars. There's no reason to go up there and really challenge. Once Frank Healy didn't get around Dixon on that first lap, as a matter of fact, he really stopped trying after the chicane. He had 2 shots at him going around turn number 1 and 2, and then he had another shot at him going into the chicane. And after he failed to do that, both of those, I think he's real happy to keep those guys in sight. Now, Tony Kanaan, he's fallen back a ways, and he's not as happy as they are because he doesn't want to be that far behind. He at least wants to be in that little group there where they're, half a second apart or so when they go into the pits, because if they pit under green, the distance he's back is going to make a huge difference.
As we mentioned before, there are no points for qualifying. There are 3 bonus points for leading the most laps. Of course, the winner picks up 50. Second place is 40. Third place is then 35. Then it goes to 32 for fourth, and it drops 2 points down to 20th, and then drops 1 point after that. So, with a 65-point lead, Franchitti, who is presently third, this, I really think, is his championship to win. Now, we want to correct something I said last week during the Richmond broadcast. I mentioned that in kart competition, he had tied, I said, Paul Tracy for the championship, and on the tiebreaker, Tracy had won. Actually, it was Montoya that he tied back in '99, but Montoya had won more races than Franchitti, and he took the championship. So I want to correct that for anybody that picked up on that miscue a week ago at Richmond. So Franchitti is really looking for his first outright championship, and I would have to say at mid-season with a 65-point lead and 4 road courses that this is his championship to lose.
Well, yeah, if he doesn't have any kind of mechanical trouble or doesn't have any crashes, it's going to be very difficult to beat him because he's been very successful in being consistent all year long.
Well, we saw Jeff Simmons' teammate make an early pit stop. Now the Jeff Simmons pit crew has laid out the tires for his early pit stop. So maybe that's just team strategy. They're going to pit these 2 Rahal Letterman drivers early and get them out of sequence and see how that shakes out, because they were both near the back of the pack.
Well, it's definitely a strategical move. There's no question about it, because they don't have to come in for fuel until about lap 18. So he's got another 6 laps to go before that has to happen.
Back up in front, still as it was when we left this battle, with Castroneves leading Scott Dixon and Franchitti, the top 3. Kanaan is still 4th. Marco Andretti is 5th. Vitor Mira is now in 6th position. 7th is Sam Hornish, then Darren Manning. Dan Weldon finds himself back in 9th after starting 10th. Koski Matsura is in the 10th position. As you see, Jeff Simmons making his first pit stop. Buddy Rice is now in the 11th position, and Thomas Scheckter back in 12th. Danica Patrick is 13th. Jeff Simmons just came in, so A.J. Foyt, Ed Carpenter, Sarah Fisher, then will be Scott Sharp and Jeff Simmons.
Well, Dario Franchitti really been the class of the field. We thought when the season started that Dan Weldon was just going to kick everybody, because he started out the season really dominating. And then after about 2 or 3 races, everything kind of fell apart for him, and he has not been very good. And about that time is when Franchitti picked up. Ever since the Indianapolis 500, he has just been on a roll. His confidence is way up, and he has turned into one of the best short-track oval racers in this series. No question about that. And that's, for me, that's a very, very surprising turn.
And that's a tough transition from road course racing to a racetrack like we saw last week at Richmond.
Yeah, because you're always running so close and so tight. You have to take so many chances in order to get around the guy and to make any advances on those kind of courses. It's just a different kind of racing altogether than a road course. And Franchitti was not. I mean, he was pretty vocal when he first came to this series about not really wanting to run the ovals. He liked the road courses much better. He didn't think the ovals were suited him all that well, but he's turned into be one of the best oval racers.
We had speculated, too, that he might be the one to leave the team and go to their road racing program, but it was actually Brian Herta that left, and he became almost, for that team, the designated champion contender for this season.
Yeah, no question about it. He really has been looking really good. Here's Foyt. He went in the pits. I think he ran over his hose.
The air hose. Maybe he did get the air hose.
That'll probably be a penalty for him, which will pretty much put him out.
The leader is of a Roger Penske team. Second place is Ganassi. And third, fourth, and fifth are Andretti Green. So Weldon must be thinking, did I make the right choice to leave Andretti Green and go to Ganassi, because he's not having the kind of season he thought he might be having?
No, he's not. Marco has fallen ways off the pace, too. He's back behind these guys by a ways, so he's going to...
There's Michael looking on.
Yeah. I think he realized realizes that Frankitti's the only one of his guys right now that is on pace, able to keep up with these leaders. I think he's looking for a yellow flag so he can come in and make some changes to his other cars and get them closed back up on the tail of the 3 leaders.
Castroneves has not been able to pull away from Scott Dixon, and Dixon has not been able to pull away from Dario Franchitti. And all 3 have pulled away from Tony Kanaan. Kanaan now almost 7.5 seconds behind the leader.
Yeah, all 3 of those guys right now just marking time. They're on lap 14. They've completed 14 laps. So they'll be pitting. They could pit as early as 3 more laps. They might stick around for 5 more laps. But I think you're probably going to see everybody monitor what Castroneves does. When Castroneves comes in, you're going to see the first 4 or 5 guys all head for that pit area.
Well, you think they really can't follow him in because they're not sure when he's going to come in. But they'll stay out 1 more lap, then come in?
No, I think they'll try to follow him in. When he pits, they'll
so the crew will see that Penske's laid out.
When he lays out, that's right. When he lays out, the only thing that might change on that is they might decide to come in earlier than he does. I don't think they're going to stay out longer. Wouldn't seem to be any advantage to stay out longer. They might come in earlier, trying to maybe gain some advantage that way.
And there you see the gap from 3rd back to 4th. Here comes Kanaan. And that is Marco behind Kanaan.
Yeah, so he's picked up, he's lost quite a bit of time to these guys. And he's on radio communication right now saying, okay, guys, when we come in, this is what we need. You know, I got trouble in this corner. I need some more downforce. I need less downforce. Whatever he's telling them. Because right now he's lost, about 6 or 7 seconds to the leaders. And so he's not wanting that to...
Right, sir, in early. Now, the race conditions, Larry, are very similar to the conditions they were practicing in and qualifying in yesterday.
Yes, they certainly are. So there wasn't any surprises for these guys. The guys who were fastest this morning are still the fastest here in the race. So everybody, some of the other guys who went in and made some changes to their cars, obviously still didn't get that quite the right setup, because the guys who have been fastest all weekend long are still the fastest guys on the racetrack.
And really, it was the starting position that helped Elio there, and of course the same with Scott to keep Dario behind him. Had Dario start on the pole, he'd be leading this thing right now because these guys are so evenly matched.
Exactly. Of course, Dario had the advantage last week at Richmond because he got to start up front. Look at this, all 3 of them.
Here they come, and early, Larry.
They are in early.
Very early.
I'm a little surprised.
These guys are giving you room here, Scott. Right on the marks now. You're going to center in on the board. Stop with Rick.
See Sarah Fisher in front of them. The Penske crew goes to work on Castroneves. I can't imagine any real wholesale changes to the wing angle on these cars because they've been running so well. Just as they came in.
Yep, all 3 of them pretty much exactly the way they came in. All 3 crews doing a terrific job getting their guys out. Looks like, if anybody, Franchitti lost a little ground to everybody else. We'll see now if he is faster.
We'll go on board with Marco.
Now Marco did not come in, so...
He's your second leader of the afternoon.
Staying on the racetrack. We'll see if that works to his advantage or his disadvantage.
They've also laid out the tires for Marco, so he should make an appearance on pit road this next time by. We've got around Tony Kanaan. The other Andretti green car, and that would be Danica, also made a pit stop.
Well, it looks like you might be right. Maybe everybody is going to be on a 3 pit stop strategy instead of 2. I thought sure they would try to stretch it and make it on 2.
Well, they may come in early the first stop to see what the mileage is this afternoon, then stretch it out more for the next segment.
Well, they might. It's going to be a lot of strategy, and I think as far as Franchitti and Dixon go, they did exactly what they needed to do. They came in when the leader did.
Marco gets her blow down to the attention of the Andretti Glen team.
Wide open. 3, 2, 1.
So Kim Green talking to Marco. Marco, of course, victorious at Infineon last year in his rookie season. He's only completed 1.
Okay, good job. We took a little air pressure out of the tires. Reset your fuel when you get a chance.
parts of the property on the pit stop, because here comes a pass. Oh, he didn't have the room to make it before he got hard on braking into the chicane.
Well, Castroneves, he did the right thing. He pulled down to the inside. He says, if you're going to go around me, you got to do it on the outside. Did not give him any room on that inside, so he just, going around on the outside just isn't going to work going into that chicane.
You see the gap between first and second. That's about what it was when they made their first pit stop. But now they put some gap between the second and third. I think Franchitti was the big loser there because he didn't get out as fast as these two guys did. So they work on lap number 18 with Castroneves leading Dixon and Franchitti.
No holds barred. No quarter given. No sport like it. Cage Rage, Saturday 9 p.m. Sky Sports 3.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Beer, the imported 4% lager. Beck's quality, Beer percent.
Good wave, perfect left to right brake, reminiscent of Prestatin 87. Flat face, clean edge, nice vertical impact zone place. Oh, I don't know what it's called. Pasty? Yes, please.
The new Clio by Rip Curl, for the surfer in you.
You think you look the business. She thinks you look overworked. React.
An innovation from L'Oreal Men Expert. Hydra Energetic Anti-Fatigue Moisturizer. Hydrates and recharges your skin for a lasting, healthy look. Hydra Energetic from L'Oreal Men Expert. Expert technology for every man's skin.
The World at War. The definitive history of World War II. Get your latest free DVD offer with tomorrow's Daily Mail.
Two big welterweight fights. First, live from Atlantic City, Gatti v. Gomez. Then live from California, Margarito v. Williams for the WBO World title. Sponsored by Sky Bet, Sunday morning at 2, Sky Sports 1.
Welcome back to the Camping World Watkins Glen Grand Prix, and it's Castroneves versus Dixon. They're duking it out all the way around the track here as Dixon dives for the inside. Let's cross back to our commentators at trackside.
While we're riding along with Scott Dixon, we want to wish Dylan down in Auckland, New Zealand, a happy 5th birthday this weekend. Grandma and Grandpa Dixon especially want to say happy birthday.
Send us some birthday cake.
There you go.
It might be stale time it gets here.
Hope Grandma and Grandpa sent you lots of money, Dylan.
Because Grandpa and Grandma are up here driving the motor home.
That's right. They're having lots of fun themselves.
This would be Scott's nephew.
Yes, yes.
And we saw Scott's fiance earlier, the running star, Emma.
Right now,
not being just as good a shape as Scott is in.
Right now, Scott's trying to be the running stars. He's trying very hard to find a way around Castroneves. He seems to be a little bit quicker after this pit stop. Seems to be just a little bit quicker than Castroneves. And the place he's really quicker is down in turn number 1.
Oh, and Castroneves comes off high and smacks the fence.
I'm not
the second time this season while leading a race he's crashed out.
And Scott Dixon was extremely lucky he didn't get caught up in that thing. I think something broke in that car. That car just took off as he came off the corner. I'm not too sure. Well, we'll just take a look. I thought maybe a tire exploded on that thing or something.
Well, remember, he was leading. As there is a fire in the back of the car, he was leading at Milwaukee with some 24 laps to go, and the wing support collapsed, and he crashed.
Well, you talk about somebody with some bad luck this year. He has really, really had his share of bad luck.
He's had crashes in, what, 4 of the last 5 races?
I don't know.
Broke, or I think that was just driver error.
It looked like he hit a bump back there or something, and that thing got the back end out, and he just drove it into the fence.
He got up on the curbing. Let's watch from Scott's car. Well, this changes the complexion of this race.
Now, the back end just got loose.
He wiggled, yeah.
The back end just got loose in the middle of the corner, and once he got it loose, we talked about everybody saying this racetrack was very slick, and it looked like that's just what happened. The back end got loose on him.
Watch him twitch. Now watch him twitch here.
Right in the middle of the corner. Right there, he twitched.
Tried to save it. There was no room coming off the corner.
And Scott Dixon was absolutely in the perfect place.
And there was enough room between Scott Dixon and Franchitti that Franchitti got by as well.
Yeah, but look how, just once he twitched, look at this. Scott barely gets by before he comes down across the racetrack, and then he's already across it by the time Franchitti.
And Franchitti went through some debris, so they're going to have to come into this yellow and change the tires.
I think this is going to change the pit strategy for everybody. You can see, it just looked like it doesn't appear that anything broke. Let's see if Tim Cindric can tell us what happened. Tim Cindric is, of course, the team manager for Castroneves. We'll see if Castroneves told him anything before that thing. Let's go down.
Well, let's hear from
I hold my line. It's ridiculous. I mean, I'm trying to hold my line, but I mean, you want to give him the pass for him? I'm fine. I'll give it to him. But it's ridiculous. Obviously, I'm pushing, and led to a mistake.
Well, that...
Cindric, did you guys make any changes with the car the first time around? Was he having any handling issues?
No, the car felt really good. You know, the first stop, we had a great first stop, and you know, obviously Dixon's good as well. And no, I think that just watching the replay there, it looked like maybe the patch caught us out, you know, going across there. But you know, I got to hand it to Elio. You don't see that. He's driven for us for a long time, and you don't see that type of thing. So, you know, I haven't talked to him yet. He didn't say anything on the radio, but that's racing some days.
Tim?
Well, if he had any luck at Watkins Glen, it would be all bad, wouldn't it, Elio Castroneves? You're back with us, of course, with Paul Cherry and Tim Scott. If I can come to you first, Tim. A huge crash. Heard Elio talking about how he was pushing, and then we heard them talking about that patch of the track. You can see that long strip. We were talking about that before we came on air. That's been quite cheaply remedied around Watkins Glen, hasn't it?
Well, they've relayed the tarmac in seams, which means that sometimes there's one seam and then there's a bridge between the next. And maybe Elio just caught a wheel on one of those, and the grip changes and it's caught him out.
Well, of course, we can speculate from here in London at the moment, and we'll take a look at this now. Paul Cherry, you can join us in here. You saw it. He just had a bit of a bobble just there on that strip, saved it, and then there was no... Tell you what, Dixon was lucky.
The biggest problem there, as Tim said earlier in the show, there's no runoff in these places. And yes, I mean, you watch here from Dixon's eye view, he's just gathering it all together, can see he can make a chance, but obviously once the car comes back, he was well underneath it. But this was a sizable accident. I mean, you know, that's 140 mile an hour around that corner.
Man of understatement. We were actually talking about the runoff that they don't have here at this racetrack. There is Elio Castroneves walking back now. How unlucky is this man at the moment? He really doesn't have a lot of luck at Watkins Glen. Although you have to say that Scott Dixon did look very, very good out on the racetrack. Was applying a lot of pressure to the Penske man.
A lot of pressure, and Tim Cindric there said, you know, more or less the same thing. Elio doesn't normally make those mistakes. I mean, he's a dyed-in-the-wool road racer, and he was put under pressure, and on this occasion he gave under. The other thing to notice there, as we saw in the back of that clip, Dario did run over some shrapnel, so hopefully that crew have called him in now under this yellow, and we'll change the tyres and have a good look round.
As soon as pit lane is open, I would think that would be their strategy, Tim. I mean, there was a lot of junk on that road. They're going to take quite a lot of time to clear it off because it shreds tyres as well, doesn't it?
Yes, as our American colleagues mentioned, this could well change the strategy. Dixon did very well here. I mean, because he wouldn't have known exactly which way Elio was going to end up, and so yes, it must have been quite a nerve-wracking moment for him. But now he really is in the pole position because he looks quick. Those three have been about the same speed though, but Dario's got to try and get Scott right away at the restart. It's a big thing for Dario, big opportunity now.
And of course Tony Kanaan will be in there as well if he can. In third place, you can see there, through goes Dixon, through goes Franchitti. Kanaan is up. Now we have pits open by the look of this. So this is a big moment really in this Watkins Glen Grand Prix. Particularly important to get this exactly right. I wonder if anybody will short fill and try and get in front here, Paul.
Well, they may well do, as we've just been saying. The strategy is now going to change. The other thing is, on a yellow, you lose so much time here because such a long lap. We're used to our 17 to 25 second laps. This is a 1 minute 30 lap. So if you don't come in now, you've got a long time before you come back. So crews are going to take every opportunity. See, we've got Marco here coming in, and a lot of people staying out because most people have taken their fuel and tyres. If Dario feels comfortable with the car, maybe they're not going to speculate and change the tyres. Hopefully that's not going to cost him positions later in the race.
So Marco decides to come in, and now he will be out of sequence with the majority of the field as they've gone straight through. Maybe they'll... Well, I mean, what is the strategy as far as this is concerned, Paul? I mean, at the end of the day, what can Marco achieve from this early entry?
Well, the advantage Marco is going to have is if we either have another yellow or we then carry on until green flag stops, which is what they're probably speculating on. He's going to be able to be hanging out there for quite some considerable time and going to pull himself up from the 6th or 7th where he is right into the front, and hopefully to the last end of the race he would be in the top 3.
And of course, Tim, it's the speculation over the debris that Dario ran over. He will have known he ran over debris, he would have felt it, he would have seen it. He's obviously taken the call not to converse with his pit crew to come in and change those tyres.
It would appear that way, wouldn't it? I mean, I don't know whether they might be thinking that some of them are going to pit later on under this yellow, just waiting to maximise the fuel mileage that they get out of the current tank. But yeah, if I think if there was a puncture, Dario would have already become aware of it. So there's no problem there. I think clearly strategy-wise, someone like Andretti is hoping he's only going to have to pit one more time, but I'm not sure if he can make it.
So after that big crash then, Helio Castroneves is out in the Penske car. It's Scott Dixon that leads. We'll take a short break. Stay with us though for the conclusion parts of the Watkins Glen Grand Prix.
Sometimes you're just too busy to catch every episode of your favourite soap or series. So we invented the clever little Sky Plus box. At the touch of a button, you can automatically record every episode of a whole series like Lost. It's really simple too. When you're ready, you'll find whatever you recorded waiting for you inside the box. Call 08705 800 876. Sky. Join in.
Busca 3 barcos.
¿3 barcos?
Vine-ripened tomatoes and a unique blend of herbs make the rich tomato sauce. The delicious fresh dough is baked using a traditional recipe. The succulent pepperoni is made with carefully selected spices, and the mouth-watering mozzarella comes from cows that graze the lush valleys of West Wales. Oh yes, pizza perfection with the Domino's Pepperoni Passion. Now only $9.99. Domino's Pizza, take a fresh look.
We've just come under a green flag for the Camping World Watkins Glen Grand Prix. Let's get back to our commentators at trackside. We're live.
With Buddy Rice, who was just passed by Jeff Simmons, and he's trying to get that position back. Jeff tucked in behind Sarah, so Sarah's in heavy traffic right now.
Yeah, Jeff Simmons right in front of hers. Ed Carpenter. Oh!
And here's A.J. Foyt, the fourth, has just spun. Now that will bring out a localized yellow when we go full course yellow.
Well, we'll see.
See whether he's in harm's way there. exactly where he is in that racetrack. So we're going to go full course yellow, our second of the afternoon. Lap 25 for a foot spin.
Well, it took a long time for us to get that first yellow, but not long to get the second one.
Let's see what happened here. He's by himself.
Oops. Hard on the throttle, spun the tires, and it just got away. Didn't take much.
Well, looks like he can get that thing restarted and head back to the pit lane and get the tires changed by the Vision Racing team.
Well, the pace car will pick them up, and they'll all bunch up here pretty shortly. But yeah, they just want to get that thing back on the course, but he's going to lose probably a lap in the process. Now to put him down to everybody else by at least one lap.
So one thing that the Delphi safety crew, Larry, has instituted over the past 2 or 3 seasons, they have onboard starters or starters on board all the safety vehicles. They get these guys fired back up and get them on the way. You don't have to tow them back to the pit lane.
Right, and you can see right there they had the starter motor in there and he got it started.
It's on board with Danica. You can see what now you go back on board with Marco.
This is under yellow, so I'm not sure.
I thought that was a replay there, but no,
Yeah.
they're under yellow.
But Marco's, he's pretty deep in the field right now. He's
back in
10th place, so he's made some gains by making that pit stop the last time. He might be in a place to lead this race at least for a few laps.
Well, keep in mind that Danica started in 15th position. She's made her second pit stop, and right now she's up in 9th. So that strategy's playing in her hand.
Yeah, she's done a pretty good job. She also, we talked about how well Sam Hornish had done on the road course. She's done really well on the road course too. She's had a couple of good runs.
And she has experience through the Formula Atlantic when she was driving for Rahal Letterman. Now look at this. Here they come on this yellow. Now everybody's headed for pit lane.
Well, see,
Fuel position 1.
Danica Patrick's going to lead this thing.
Right on the board now. On the board. Straight in. Straight in. Stop with the red.
He becomes our third leader of the afternoon. Oh, look at that. Kanan got out before Franchitti.
Yeah, Franchitti's pit stops have not been quite as good as some of the others here so far. So Kanan gains a spot, Franchitti loses a spot. So that's...
Hornish almost got around Franchitti on that pit stop.
Stop, put it.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised that Mira and Weldon didn't come in. They both, it's been a while since they've been in, so they're going to have to pit in another 10 or 12 laps. I'm a little surprised, but they do what they do. It's all a part of the strategy. Marco made a good call. Danica Patrick made a good call. Those guys are still on the racetrack, and they pitted just about 2 or 3 laps ago in that first yellow, so they have a good reason to stay out there.
Vitor did not stay out there, and he leads this thing now for the Panther Racing.
Yeah, Vitor's stayed out, so he's going to lead this thing. Weldon's going to be in second. Danica Patrick's going to be back in third.
We're going green this time, Vitor. We're going green this time. You copy? 10-4, going green.
Okay, you're going green. You heard the call to Vitor. He said, yes, I copy. We're going green this time by. So Vitor finished second here last year. He's had 7 second-place finishes and still looking, I think, in 68 tries for his first victory.
Well, we'll see how well these guys are running up there now. You got the really fast cars in behind you. I think Mira's pretty quick. Weldon's pretty quick. We'll see if it takes these guys a while. You're back there with Dixon. How aggressive do you want to be? You know you've got a big pit stop advantage on them, but you cannot just sit there and let those lap cars sit in front of you and slow you down, because you've got Kanan and Franchitti back there that are going to be eating away at your heels. So you're going to have to be very aggressive, but at the same time patient enough not to make a mistake, because you're deep in traffic right now.
And 2 yellows. First with the crash involving Castronetics, and then the spin of 4.
Leaders go.
Sarah Fisher. She's very slow coming off of turn 1. He got behind her. Now he's going to have to get to the inside of her because Kanan's got a run on him. Kanan got in a good spot back there. He got a little bit of a run. But he's going to get around Fisher and not let Kanan get to the inside.
Well, they both get by, and so does Franchitti.
But see, he was...
What Franchitti lost in that pit stop, he's gained getting through traffic.
But Dixon was 9th on the field coming off of that yellow. He was the 9th car back there, so he had a lot. He had several lap cars, a couple of lap cars, plus some slower cars in front of him. So they've got their work cut out for them. Now, like I said, he's got to be patient, but he's got to be aggressive at the same time, because if he's not, you saw Kanan. He's right there, ready to take that position away.
And Carpenter rides in 5th. You're riding along with Jeff Simmons there in 6th position. So pit stop strategy has Carpenter, who has virtually no road race experience, up in the 5th position.
Yeah, and you can see he's holding up the crowd back there. That's Simmons behind him trying to get around. Then right behind him is Buddy Rice. Dixon right behind Buddy Rice. So Dixon's going to try to make a move probably down this front straightaway, if not off of turn 1 going into the next one, because he doesn't want Kanan and those guys back there with a chance to get around him.
Dixon right now being shown back in the 8th position. Tony Kanan is 9th and Dario Franchitti is 10th, and he needs to get by, but he didn't like this. So Simmons goes to the inside and picks up the position, which took the lane away from him.
Well, he wasn't really ready. This is where he's going to try to make his move, is coming through this section of the course. Now, he's caught up with him. He had to get out of the throttle a little bit. That's not a good thing. Now, he's going to have to get in line and try to get to the inside of these guys. And you can see there's guys in front of him blocking. Kanan's on the outside. Kanan's going to try to make a move on the outside.
Oh, there was trouble. They all made it through.
Franchitti's on the outside of Kanan. There was no crash there. And Hornish right behind him.
Well, they missed a great chance to wad up about 3 race cars right there.
Everybody really pushing, but, you know, you just got to be so careful right there. Dixon did a great job holding those guys off, but you can see Kanan and Franchitti both wanted very badly to get in there. Hornish, he got a little wiggly around there trying to get around those guys, and Manning's right behind Hornish. So that whole group of cars being held up by Ed Carpenter right now.
So right now the fastest drivers on the track are back at 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th position.
Yeah, and meanwhile the first 4 cars or 5 cars have just pulled away, first 4.
So Vito Mira continues to lead this thing over Dan Weldon.
Manning, he goes to the inside of Hornish. Can't make it stick.
Danica Patrick is 3rd, 4th is Marco, then it's Ed Carpenter, Jeff Simmons, Buddy Rice, and then the fast guys, Scott Dixon, Tony Kanan, Dario Franchitti, Sam Hornish, and Darren Manning.
See, once they got mired back there, it's very difficult. We talked about passing on this race course. You've really got to get your act together, and you've got to make the move at the right time in order to make the pass. You can see Dixon down there. He got to the inside, couldn't make the pass, though. Now that
if they run long enough and a yellow comes out and they all make the pit stop together, it's going to be the same mess.
Yeah, he's going to have to try to outbrake Ed Carpenter. Carpenter's going to give him room. Now this should really help him. This will give him 2 or 3 corners to pull away from Kanan, to give him a little bit of breathing room, because they're not going to be able to pass him through corner 5 or corner 6. They're going to have to wait somewhere else. As I say that, he starts to go around. No, he's not going to do it there in 6.
Unless Carpenter pulls over and lets him go.
Carpenter might just pull over and let him go. Now they're going down into the boot. The next chance he's going to have to get around him is to make a run off of the boot and go down this short straightaway. Now, he didn't get through there very well. He's not going to do it. Franchitti, as a matter of fact, may make a move on him. And he's going to. No, he's going to go. He's going to go
for it. Outbrake him and moves up a position. So Franchitti goes around Kanan for 9th position.
Kanan entered that corner down there. The toe of that boot entered way too low. Now Manning again tries to get underneath Hornish. These guys are putting on a heck of a race.
The best racing's way back in the pack as the first 4 begin to pull away. Vito Mira on lap 30. They'll complete half the race this time by. And Vito Mira leading Weldon, Danica Patrick, and Marco Andretti.
You can see now Franchitti's going to get under Carpenter going into turn 1. This is the second best passing place on the race course. And Kanan will get him going down the back straightaway. He just got caught in a bad spot down there. Made a bit of a mistake, and Franchitti made him pay for it by passing.
What language is Kanan using to talk to himself right now?
I don't know, but whatever it is, he's mad at himself over that mistake he made down there, I can tell you, because he he knows. He was trying to get around Carpenter a little quicker than he really should have.
Look at the lead for Vito Mira, almost a second and a half over Dan Weldon. Patrick rides in third position. Fourth now is Andretti. Fifth, a good ride for Jeff Simmons, but the real battle is back in traffic.
You know what bugs the experts at Oral-B? Brushing your teeth still leaves plaque bugs behind. Billions of acid-producing, enamel-eating bugs. So they invented Oral-B Vitality, a rechargeable brush under £25. Vitality is pure plaque-busting genius. It moves almost 8,000 times a minute and could destroy twice as much plaque as a manual. Take that, plaque! Plug in Vitality. Recharge your smile. Oral-B Vitality.
With the team's pit strategy all out of sequence at the moment, it is Vito Mira that leads from Dan Weldon and Danica Patrick. That's your top three in the Watkins Glen Grand Prix.
The personnel has changed.
Oh yeah, the chief engineer's gone. Andy Brown's no longer there. A lot of things have changed, but they've still done a pretty nice job. And look at this, Danica Patrick hanging right on with Dan Weldon and staying right in front of Marco. Marco's not been able to gain a whole lot. And Jeff Simmons has done a good job too. Well, we see Scott Dixon.
Scott Dixon back in the seventh position.
Right behind Buddy Rice. Now all those cars in front of Dixon are going to have to pit before he does. They all made earlier pit stops, so they'll have to pit. It'll all depend on the yellows whether it's really a benefit. If a yellow comes out and everybody decides to make a pit stop about the same time, it's really going to benefit Danica Patrick and Marco Andretti. And Simmons and
Scott Dixon back there in seventh, and right behind him now is the number. Yep. Scott Dixon and Franchitti, and Hornish. There's Hornish. We're now being told there was some contact between Hornish and Kanaan. It was a couple laps ago in that place where it's very difficult
that's down
to
there
pass.
in turn number 6.
And that's how he lost 2 positions.
Oh, wow. That's where I said it was going to be hard to pass, and he got around Carpenter.
Well, it was hard to pass.
Yeah, it was hard to pass. He and Kanaan really got together. That was more than a touch. That was pretty much a bang right there.
Did I hear that this was a non-contact sport?
Well, right there, that was pretty hard contact. And if you think Kanaan was talking to himself earlier, you should hear him right now.
He was getting ready for NASCAR.
What's happening?
Mira, the leader. Mira may be out of fuel. And this is a long racetrack to run out of fuel.
Wow. Well, if he's out of fuel, they're only going about 16 or 17 laps. There's something wrong. He should never have run out after only 16 laps. But I think you're right. I think he probably is out of fuel.
There is your new leader, Weldon, who started in 10th position. And we've got our third full course yellow. As Mira will see his chances of victory ease away without enough fuel.
Most of these drivers, all these drivers pitted on it the first time on lap 16, and that he's only gone 16 laps since then.
As he sits there and shakes his head no, our third full course yellow, as the Delphi safety crew will have to come out and tow. They can't refire him without fuel. Had to tow him back to the pit lane. Weldon leading under yellow.
Well, Dan Weldon finds himself out in front, having qualified down in 10th place, just alongside Darren Manning. With me, Tim Scott and Paul Cherry. Nearly forgot your name then, I was getting so excited, Paul. After all these years, since 1995. You've got to say, Vita Mira, extremely unlucky. Could he have run out of fuel on such short laps?
Well, we didn't actually see his pit stop, so we're not sure whether he short-filled or not to get him out and give him the all-important track position. But certainly he wasn't doing any weaving or anything. I don't know. Let's see what happens in a minute. But what we need to see is who comes in now, because this is a crucial yellow.
Vita Mira, he didn't come in last time on the last yellow, of course. He was hoping probably there would be one. He's now created that, which has given Dan Weldon an opportunity when they opened the pits to come in this time and get a full tank of fuel, Tim. Good strategy from them. He must feel fairly lucky, you would have thought.
Yeah, it's certainly gone Dan's way. He didn't want to have to pit under green, so pitting under yellow is preferential. But I think that the gap between the two yellows, this third one and the previous one, is so small that the leaders aren't going to have to pit again. I think they'll probably stay out for the time being. So I'm not sure that it's not going to really work for Dan. But the interesting one is Marco Andretti and Jeff Simmons, who are third and fourth, and they have got not as much fuel as Dixon and Franchitti, but they have got a fairly full tank.
It's a strategist's nightmare, isn't it, really, at this particular point. We're on lap 32 of 60 when Vita Mira there, as you can see, cruising up and over the hill. He does eventually roll to a halt. You can only imagine that it is fuel. Certainly he doesn't look to be, mind you, he's not shaking it from side to side. I mean, you tell me about the body language there, Tim.
Well, it's just unlucky that he happened to be at that section of the track where there's Armco close by on either side, and so he couldn't just pull off, and we wouldn't have had a yellow, would we? So it's little instances like that that can change the course of a race.
It certainly played into Dan Weldon's hands. Now they've got a bit of half a chance of doing something special with this race. He didn't look like he was that much on the pace early on in the race, but he's found himself as very Dan Weldon-esque, if you like, moving to the front through circumstance in these.
Well, the team, you know, they've got all the data that they need. They've got the strategy there. Dan's obviously started the race. They've probably bolted Scott Dixon's setup on it, so he's there or thereabouts. Interestingly enough, Dan's nemesis, the lovely Danica, is hanging on to his shirt tail there, and that'll be interesting to see which way that goes.
Talking about which way it goes, Tony Kanaan was looking pretty good at one point until he had a bit of a clash earlier on. Now then, we've got the hybrid Honda gently leading them round. It's not chucking out much in the way of emissions, of course, but it's also going very, very slowly with a lot of very fast cars parked up behind it with tyres cooling every inch of the way. It must be quite frustrating being behind that.
Yes, but those are the rules. Those are the rules. Just to go touch briefly on that, Sam Hornish and Tony Kanaan, as we saw, having a little bit of argy-bargy there. Any other series, that would be a black flag for the man on the inside who clearly was muscling it, but in this particular series it wasn't.
Controversial comments there from Paul Cherry. Do you want to add to that, Tim?
Well, I have a slightly more sympathy for Hornish there. I thought it was pretty optimistic. He needed quite a lot of cooperation from Kanaan, which you're not going to get because he's a hard racer. But Tony also shut the door. I mean, Tony will be rightly aggrieved, and here they come in. So Andretti stays out. He assumes the lead. Weldon and Patrick peel off into the pits. They're going to need to pit, but Marco is obviously still out there. And we'll have Dario and Dixon come up behind him.
And Marco will be quite happy to see another yellow just a little way further on. Perhaps another 10 or 15 laps for Marco might be to the better. He might just get lucky, but it is a roll of the dice for him, isn't it, being this far out of sequence?
He is obviously off kilter to the others, but Dan seems to be having a very slow pit stop.
There's definitely a problem there because Danica's just left him there.
So, Dan Weldon, he may have been a little bit of luck, but certainly looked to me like they perhaps got the jack stuck in the rear end of the vehicle, but Dan Weldon, his language will be choice as he rejoins Watkins Glen track. We are under caution, I remind you. there is a safety car out on the racetrack at the moment. It's a long old lap round here, Paul, as you pointed out before. And again, let's talk about these cold tyres. It only takes a degree or two in temperature to lower the pressure of the tyres and make these cars handle completely differently, doesn't it?
That's why we see so much bobbing and weaving going on now, because whilst they're following that hybrid, they're following it at 50 miles an hour, which, you know, to you and I through all the corners would be quite exciting enough. But in these things, it's just a run-of-the-mill, and that's why they're having to scrub it into the tyres. But these cars have all got sensors on every wheel. They can check the pressure and the temperature of these tyres, so the crews can say to the drivers, do some more.
Well, we could hear there, or we couldn't hear, I should say, Dan Weldon having a bit of a conversation. Michael Andretti versus Marco Andretti there, as far as their best finishes are concerned. A sophomore slump. And that means in American, Tim?
That means a guy or girl in their second year having a bit of a hard time. Marco, of course, was very, very strong here last year until he was ridiculously nerfed off by a very slow Eddie Cheever. Eddie Cheever obviously very fast at one time, it was along many years ago. There's Vitor, obviously managed to get back to the pits. I don't know if he's been given a tow maybe.
Well, that was clearly not anything mechanical, it clearly was fuel then, I think that confirms it.
Let's hope so. But the advantage with the American racing, and I've experienced it myself, is that they want to keep the show going. So if there's no reason for a car to be retired, they'll tow it back. If it's run out of fuel, they'll tow you back at no penalty, get filled up and get you out there, because they want to see cars on the track.
Watkins Glen, New York State, we are under a safety car at this moment in time, and we are in for a pretty hectic race, I feel, from this point inwards, gentlemen. It's certainly had quite a lot of action in the last 20 or so laps.
Well, as soon as they get involved in traffic round here, it becomes very hectic, doesn't it? I mean, we saw in the early stages of the race the top three going as fast as they possibly could. Witness Helio Castroneves' accident, but it was kind of processional. But once they get in amongst the traffic, it becomes extremely hectic. I noticed though that Dario's still right there behind Dixon, so he's got to get a run at him on the restart, and that's going to be crucial for Dario, because although they're fighting for third now, it could well be what decides the lead of the race. Marco obviously a factor up front, but you've still got to look at Dixon and Franchitti as your sort of natural leaders.
And Tony Kanaan, I believe, if that car isn't damaged after that clout it had a little earlier on. I mean, certainly he's still a bit of a menace around here, I would suggest.
Without a doubt. But the one thing with these cars is they're built like the proverbial outdoor shed, and they'll take a fair bit of bashing around, principally because obviously they're built for the ovals and the harsh environment that is. But here, rubbing wheels, not a big thing. But Tony Kanaan, he's been up and down. He's a strong challenger without a doubt, but he's had a couple of hiccups here.
Weldon has dropped to 15th place now after that series of fuel in there. 204 miles is your race distance. We're already on lap 35 of the 60 it will take to cover that. Let's cross back then live to our commentators and hear what they've got to tell us.
Plus just track position. It's very difficult to pass guys, and if you've got great track position, it could really make a big difference. And this might put Marco in a position to win this race, even though he might not be the fastest car here.
And of course, he was victorious at Infineon out in Sonoma, California last year. We'll visit Infineon in the Napa Valley wine country the last of August on board with Scott Dixon, who now is up in third position.
Now, he was pressuring Buddy Rice pretty good before that yellow flag came out, so we'll see now on this restart if he can get a good restart, see how aggressive he is. I think Scott Dixon knows he's in a good spot. He knows he's got a fast race car. He knows that he doesn't have to really push, but at the same time, well, when you got guys like a guy like Franchitti behind you putting the pressure on, you gotta be aggressive.
Well, Larry, let's say you're a team manager. At what point, if you're the team manager for Franchitti, do you start thinking in terms of points for a championship and not necessarily wins?
Well, you know, that's really going to be up to Franchitti at this point. They put him in a good position here. How aggressive he wants to be is completely up to him, and I think you'll see that play out here as we go along.
Here's the Andretti green layout for the season. You see Kanaan with a pair of wins. Andretti, his best finish was a second, and Franchitti has 3 wins, and Danica's best finish was at Texas when she went third. And this team has really picked up the pace over the last season. As you you see the pace picks up. Speaking of picking things up, as we green, as they complete lap 36. Simmons, so she picked up 12th position.
We've talked about her having some bad restarts. Got to give her some credit when she gets a good restart. That was a great restart. She's going to get around fourth too.
That'll be fourth position. So now Danica has moved to 11th. So she's getting racy here as we get to the second half of this race.
So she looking very aggressive here after that pit stop. Again, that might have been a great pit stop for her. I was a little bit surprised she made the pit stop then, but she's going to be able to run about 10 laps longer than anybody else on the field now, so she might end up leading this thing when everybody the pit stop cycle around.
We did talk about the threat of weather coming in at 5:45 local time, but that should give us a chance to finish this race before it would rain. There's Darren Manning, who's back there in 6th position. He had his best start today since the road race at St. Petersburg.
Well, he said he just wanted to pass a few cars and maybe have a few cars fall out. He'd be on the podium. That's exactly what he's done so far. He's put himself in a great position because after everything cycles around, he's going to be in 4th after all those pit stops because he took advantage of Hornish's little bang with Kanaan and got around Kanaan, and Kanaan has not been able to get back around him. Just as I say that, looks like he might make a move on him, but he didn't.
Darren only finished 12th at St. Petersburg, and the only other road course so far this season. His best one was 5th at the new Iowa racetrack 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, and that for an oval, that's definitely the best that car has done in an oval in quite some time. And he looks pretty aggressive. Look at this. There goes Dixon to the inside of Buddy Rice. Nope. Says not ready to be that aggressive.
Have the track positioned out braking.
Not going to be that aggressive this early. Not going to take myself away out of this win. So he's being cautious. He's being aggressive. He's being cautious. Remember though, the last time he did things like that, what happened? The guy in front of him overdrove and spun out. So maybe that's what he's trying to get from Buddy Rice.
Applying the pressure, make somebody else make the mistake. But he has Kanaan right behind him, so...
Franchitti right behind him.
Franchitti right behind him. Kanaan finds himself back in 7th position.
Yeah, Franchitti's... he's another one, and he's not really applied a lot of pressure to Dixon yet, but Dixon knows he's there. He's being told. He knows exactly. He can see him in the mirrors, so he knows he can't make a mistake, and he knows that if he lets Buddy Rice hold him up much longer, that Franchitti might get up there and make a move on him. And I can guarantee you, if Hornish gets a chance, he'll put a move on anybody.
He might slam somebody. Yeah. He's getting ready for NASCAR when they come up here and race. Yeah, he's putting some body work on the other cars.
Yeah, he's not close enough right now to do any of that sort of thing, but he's sitting there waiting. If they have a little problem, if they get hung up in traffic or something, then he'll be right there to take advantage of it.
Of course, this racetrack was built back in 1956, became the home of the U.S. Grand Prix. Formula One in 1961. They ran here until 1980. And then after 81, it was actually closed for 3 years. The track went into bankruptcy. And came back in 1984 and had an IMSA Camel GT race here and got things going again. And that's Schechter and Danica Patrick. And that's the battle for 10th position.
Wow, she looked like she was up under him, giving him a walk forward going into that chicane. He just outbraked her and got into the corner, and she let him go. She was putting a move on him pretty quick there.
You see the gap between first and second. There's second position, Buddy Rice. There you look off the lead car. And back to Buddy, who rides in second, 1.3 seconds back. Scott Dixon is third. Franchitti is fourth. Hornish is fifth. Then Darren Manning and Tony Kanaan. Kanaan right now back in seventh. One of the strong road racers is 4 seconds behind the leader.
Yeah, you can see Danica Patrick putting all kinds of pressure right there, trying to gain that spot as Schechter knows she's there and is doing everything he can to keep her back behind him.
Well, Schechter came on the scene in a flourish as a rookie, was Rookie of the Year, and Actually it appeared the Indianapolis 500 won as a rookie, and he crashed in turn 4. And we've seen that a number of times in his career. He's been so aggressive, so assertive, he's getting himself in trouble.
Yeah, it's just his style. That's the way he's done things. He hasn't been as quick the last year or two as he had been before, and I think this Vision Racing, as it's grown, as it's gotten better, he's also gotten better. But he's.
Oh, look at Danica now. Watch Danica come down here at this chicane. She's on the outside. That's not the place to be.
No, he had the bottom line. He wasn't going to let her get to the inside. She had a faster car. She just didn't have position on the racetrack, and finally had to let him go.
Now, she's one of those drivers that you would see running in the morning or running in the afternoon for staying in shape.
Oh, yeah.
We saw her at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway during the week, and in fact, even early morning on the weekends, out jogging through the infield
look at
around
this.
the golf course.
Man, this part of the course, Schechter's really loose there. Got on the brake. She did a nice job not to run into him there. He got that thing loose, got out of the throttle, and she had to get out of the throttle too. Now, while she's doing all that, Weldon is all over the back end trying to get around her.
Behind Weldon is AJ, who spun out but was able to stay on the lead lap.
Yeah, Dan Weldon, he wants to get around, believe me. Of course, these two got a little bit of a history, so I don't think he's wanting to run into it too bad.
No, we don't need that. We had the fireworks at Milwaukee.
Yeah. Here's your leader. Buddy Rice doing a very nice job. He's hanging on with the leaders. He hasn't fallen back any at all. Hanging around with Mark Andretti. Scott Dixon being very patient. He and Franchitti both, knowing that those two guys are probably going to have to make a pit stop, but only a couple laps before they do. So pit stop's not all that much different right now.
They'll need one more pit stop. They've just completed lap 40. And with the yellows, we've really not had this field strung out like we've seen in the past.
Well, we don't. Everybody's pretty close. Kanan looks like he's trying to make a move on Manning back there. Hasn't been able to do that, though.
So there's your youngster. Marco continues to lead this thing over Buddy Rice. But Scott Dixon, who's won the last two here, rides in third position. And right behind him is Dario Franchitti.
I'm a little surprised that Dixon has not been a little closer. He got up behind Rice, tried to make that one pass, and ever since then he's just fallen back and been able to ride there about 2 or 3 car lengths back. So hasn't really put much
Maybe
pressure
he's
on
anticipating that Marco and Rice will pit early and he'll reassume the top spot without making any kind of a charge.
Well, he might, but right now, if they all make their pit stops and then it will be their last pit stop, he's still going to come out in third position, so he's still going to have to pass those guys unless he has a better pit stop than they do, because they're only going to pit about 3 laps before he does.
Now, Buddy Rice has made steady progress throughout the season. Of course, a former winner of the Indianapolis 500 with the Ray Hall Letterman team. He is now with the
Brian Reinbold team, and he really likes where they're at. He thinks they've made a lot of progress. He likes the guys on the team. They like him. They think he's driven. He's giving them 100%, and that's all you can ask for from anybody.
Well, you look at Scott Dixon first, then Franchitti, who rides in fourth. You see the interval between first and fourth. Franchitti coming into today's race 65 points up over Scott Dixon. Dixon with 4 second-place finishes this season, looking for his first victory, but he has won here the last 2 years. Sam Hornish surprised a lot of people in qualifying. He's been very, very aggressive today, as you saw that in that move with Tony Kanaan.
Yeah, and he's, again, we talked about it, but he's one of these guys who was not a road racer, wasn't even close to being a good road racer, but he has been here recently because he's worked at it so hard. He's gone out and run a lot of laps, taken a lot of advice, and he's made himself a pretty darn good road racer.
There's Tony Kanaan, who is a good road racer, but he's back there now in 7th position. So Kanaan not having the kind of race that we would expect from him.
No, he's, ever since he got together with Hornish, he's had body work on that thing, got damaged a little bit, and it probably could be hurting him a little bit here.
Buddy Rice makes his final pit stop on lap 43.
And that might have been a strategic move because if everybody else pits under yellow, he'd be in front of him.
Well, the Andretti Green team has laid out for Marco, so we expect to see Marco on pit road the next time by. He's through the chicane. Scott Dixon in second. Franchitti now is third. Hornish is fourth, and Kanaan has moved up to fifth.
Well, it'll be interesting to see how good these pit stops are because Dixon is going to have to pit in about another 3 or 4 laps. He and Franchitti and the whole rest of them, if there's not a yellow, they're all going to have to head for pit road.
So the lead right now is about 2.2 seconds over this battle for second between Scott Dixon and Franchitti, although I don't think it's much of a battle right now, Larry.
Right now, they're just kind of minding their own business, it looks like. Waiting on those guys to have to head in. But Marco, he's as quick as anybody out there. The lap time's just as quick as Dixon. I think Dixon, his times have actually fallen off just a little bit in this segment after that last pit stop. So he'll be making a little bit of an adjustment to his car on this next pit stop.
Sky Movies premiere, brought to you by Panasonic.
Every night until Friday. Life's full of minor irritations, but finding a new movie needn't be one of them. Good Night, Good Luck, Poseidon, and The Weatherman. All part of Sky Movies Premier's first run films.
Have you checked your facts?
Yeah. All these great movies all in one place, every night till Friday on Sky Movies Premier.
Ariel's cool, clean technology cleans brilliantly at 30 degrees. Turning to 30 is one of the many ways we can all do our bit to help keep the world's temperature down. And with Ariel, you still get outstanding results. Ariel, let's all turn to 30.
The whole world has a pulse. Now, so does a toothbrush. Oral-B Pulsar. The Oral-B experts have created micro-pulse bristles that pivot and pulse deep between teeth, helping you achieve a truly superior clean. Oral-B Pulsar, changing the way you brush forever.
Everyone knows a bloke like Mickey. To Mickey, hair isn't just hair. It's a weapon to be used to devastating effect. Mickey hates flakes. Of course, he's got a look for every occasion. There's the fluffy puppy, windswept and interesting. The intellectual, plain gorgeous. And his personal favourite, morning hair. Like Mickey, Blokes Who Know voted Head & Shoulders #1 in FHM's Readers' Poll.
It's cool to be a model, but it's cooler to be a role model for my son. One way I do my bit for the environment is turning to 30 with Ariel.
You're back for the Watkins Glen Grand Prix. Scott Dixon leads after the pit strategy sorts itself out, and Dario Franchitti has just made his last pit stop and is back on track. Let's get back to our commentators.
Franchitti got around Marco, so it looks like he got a better pit stop than Marco did.
So Dixon should come in this time by. Horny should come in this time around. Dixon very high on that rumble strip.
Darren Manning's the only other car on the racetrack that has to make a pit stop, so he'll probably come in either this time or the next time.
Manning back in pole position, some 6 seconds behind your leader Dixon. Let's see if Scott comes in, heads for, yes, he heads for pit lane, and here comes Hornish.
On pit lane.
Now will Manning come in, or will he stay out?
Board. You're going to stop right with Rick. Straight in now, straight in.
Pit stop in the cockpit, and
this could be make it or break it for either one of these guys.
Watch me, watch me, watch me, watch me, watch me. Go, 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 go!
That was the voice of Roger Penske saying, watch me, but obviously Hornish didn't because he pulled away before he said go.
Well, here comes Marco Andretti. He is still in front of Franchitti. I was wrong. got out in front of both of them. See, they're both back there. So he did his pit crew did a terrific job getting him in and out as he comes out a good 10 car lengths in front of, well, more than that. A long ways in front of both Franchitti and Marco. There's second and third right there.
There's Marco in second.
But I think Hornish is in front of him too.
Hornish in front of him?
Yeah, Hornish came out in front of him too. See, he's right there behind Mira. So he's in second. Marco's now third.
And fourth now is Franchitti.
Wow. Those were important pit stops.
So Scott Dixon out in front of Hornish, Andretti, and Franchitti.
So then, you rejoin us here in the Sky Sports studio. Somewhat surprised by that, I have to tell you very quickly. Let's talk about race leader at the moment. Marco Andretti, we're scratching our brow slightly here at the moment to realise how he's managing to conjure up this particular performance, considering that he has been out of strategy for some time, and everybody seems to have managed to slot in behind him, Paul.
Right, well, he's not in the lead at the moment, but he's down in fourth place. But yes, I mean, he did have a very good stop, but clearly he'd put the hammer down when he'd got a light fuel load and really put those fast laps in, so when he did come in, he could get out in a good position, and that's where he's gained the places.
Dixon's looking good again though, Tim, isn't he? I mean, this is a track that he's obviously had a lot of success on, and again, it looks to be coming to him. They've all done their last fuel stops now, we calculate, so it's a straight race to the flag.
Sure, I mean, he's obviously did an extra lap with low fuel load, so he's managed to sort of maximise his time, you know, before his pit stop, and it's a simple straight race to the flag. We haven't seen that much overtaking amongst the leaders, but it can be done. Turn 1 you can pass, the S's you can pass, and as the stakes are raised towards the checkered flag, we're going to see some do or die manoeuvres.
This race has had us concentrating quite hard, particularly in the strategy department, as everybody gets a little bit out of sequence. I mean, how difficult is it on the ground to keep control of that strategy? It's a situation for us, we're trying to work it out here from our computer and from a fairly relaxed position. So on the ground, with all the excitement that's going on around you, and obviously the ambience that you've got there as well, how difficult it is? You've run a team before, Paul.
Well, it's in two halves. The people at the front of the grid have to make a decision on what the leader does. If a leader comes in, you've got to follow him in, if you're second, third, fourth, fifth or sixth. If you've got absolutely rubbish track position, if you're 16th but you've got a good car underneath you, the only way to do it is go for track position. Take the gamble, there'll be a yellow, move yourself up. And as we've seen with Dan Weldon, he's, you know, running around there, 12th, 13th, looking for a place to have his sandwiches. All of a sudden, he's in the top 6. And that's because Ganassis have got strategy. They've been helped very much by the yellows and the timing of those. And also it's a road course. You've got the huge long laps, so people are not prepared to take a gamble on coming in on green laps.
And Darren Manning too is having a very good drive out there at the moment. I don't know whether it was down to strategy or whether he's learning every inch of the way. I think it was you who said, Tim, at the beginning of the programme that it's the first time he's been there. Working very hard, and he's getting payback for it.
Absolutely. I mean, he knows what to do in this situation, and when he's been in a position to run with Kanaan and Franchitti and Dixon, he's done so without a problem. He's a quality racer. He knows what he's doing here. He's still on for a top 6. But you know, now that Dixon's leading and he's only got Hornish behind him, if it was Dario behind him, I think they could lead an attack on Dixon. But I don't think Hornish has got the experience or racecraft on road courses to get anything past someone as experienced as Scott Dixon.
Well, let's go back to the track then. As you can see, we're still racing live at Watkins Glen.
Wants to win. He's won this race the last 2 years. And as long as he is in a rhythm, Larry, even if Hornish does start to close in, he can be conservative right now. And it's one thing to catch a guy, it's something else trying to get around him here.
Well, that's right. And even though Scott told us earlier this week that he said, boy, my car just feels twitchy, it doesn't feel as good. Remember, he won this race in 2005 when he had a Toyota engine. The Toyota engine was 60 horsepower down on the Hondas, and he still beat Tony Kanaan. So this guy knows this racetrack. He likes this racetrack. He runs it well, and we haven't seen him make very many mistakes ever here at Watkins Glen.
Right now, he can pick up the victory and the 50 points to go with it, but he would not close in all that much on Kanaan because Kanaan right now, or Franchitti, is back in 4th position.
Well, Frankitti's aware of that. He knows he doesn't have to win this race. As long as he stays up front, is competitive, you're not going to see him taking any big chances on passing guys trying to win this thing. Marco, on the other hand, he's back there in third, and he might press a little bit because he wants to win a race too. He's one of the guys that's had kind of a bad season. He's in contention for one of the few times so far this year.
And we were surprised to see how well he did at Richmond because he had failed to finish an oval race this year with crashes, and he stepped out of an ill-handling car on 2 occasions, so he finished second to Franchitti, but his best shot at a victory this season would be on a road course.
Yeah, probably so. He's been very tough on the road courses, just about every one he's run in. And again today, his team really put him in a position by getting off sequence that one time and putting him up near the front of the field.
This racetrack has 35,000 permanent seats, but Larry, there are so many great viewing areas around this racetrack that a lot of race fans don't want to sit in the grandstand. They want to move around and check out the various vantage points.
Yeah, I would say there's a lot more people sitting around in the grass in front of the motorhomes at the different viewing areas than there are in the grandstands every day. A good crowd on the grass in the viewing areas.
Now, we have seen the crowds increase at these IndyCar Series events. There's a look at Darren Manning. He's back in 8th position. Carpenter is 7th. Manning is 8th. And 9th is Matsura.
Look at this. That's Weldon trying to get around Manning. Couldn't make it stick. But Weldon's back there trying to get around him.
I'll show you a replay of Manning's pit stop. This is the pit stop a couple laps ago. The Foyt crew goes to work on Manning.
Remember, he had to come in. He was off sequence with everybody else. Stayed out longer than anybody else. That was a pretty good pit stop.
It was nice and clean.
Yeah, he stayed out. He didn't have to take on much fuel as soon as they got the tires. As long as they had the tires on, he stayed there and got the tire. Oops, there he goes.
Just lost a position to Weldon.
Yep. Weldon made a nice move there. Got alongside him, gave him no choice.
Back on board with Dixon, who leads this thing now by 2 seconds over Sam Hornish. And anytime Sam Hornish could finish in the top 2 or 3 of a road race, you know he's making. Dario just got by Marco and kicked some dirt in his face. He said, "Take that, young teammate."
Well, Dario now, I said he wasn't going to be aggressive, but if he's fast enough and he has an opportunity, he's going to get around. So,
well, on the radio, they told Marco to let Dario go.
That's
a little team orders.
Yeah, a little surprising. It looked right there that Marco was a little faster than Dario getting into that chicane. He finally just backed off and let him go.
Team orders, if they're saying let him go, obviously Marco's not in contention for any type of a championship, and Dario is.
Right.
And so he can pick up a few points.
One more position is just that many more points. So we'll see if he can catch up with Sam Hornish. But
his 4th position is 32. 3rd position is 35. So he pick up 3 points.
Well, we'll just see now if Franchitti has anything for Sam Hornish. He's not all that far in front of him, but here, it's going to be very hard for him to catch Hornish and then get back around him.
10 laps to go. And there's the gap back to Sam.
For Sam Hornish,
it's about 2 seconds.
For Sam Hornish to finish second, you're right. This would be if not a victory, at least a moral victory for him because he's had such.
Well, the way the Penske group has gone the past few races, this is like a victory.
Yeah, because he's had some very bad finishes. He hasn't really run that good on the road courses, and when he has run good, he's made a mistake and crashed. He almost did the same thing here when he got together with Kanaan and survived that. So to go ahead and finish in second, I think the whole Penske crew would have to be very happy.
Well, could it be the hat trick? Could it be a three-peat for this driver right here? Scott Dixon won the last 2 years in inclement weather. It's been dry and warm all weekend here in the Glen. And he is enjoying a 2-second advantage over Sam Hornish with just under 9 laps to go. So it is Scott Dixon, Sam Hornish, Dario Franchitti, Marco Andretti, and Tony Kanaan in the top 5. Gary Lee and Larry Rice back at the Glen, Watkins Glen, New York. And with just Just over 9 laps to go.
Everybody on cruise control.
The race is on. 8 nations go into battle for the ultimate prize in Speedway to be crowned world champions.
Oh my goodness! Unbelievable Speedway! Cruise control with my Top Gun Maverick.
The world's greatest riders in a week of the most exciting speedway on the planet.
Cruise cutter with the ill flutter. Move so fast that'll leave you in the gutter.
The Speedway World Cup, Saturday at 6, Sky Sports 2.
Come and join the fun at mirrorbingo.com from the Daily Mirror. Register today and we'll give you £10 to play absolutely free with no deposit required. Tens of thousands of pounds can be won every day. Plus, chat and make friends while you play. Join in the fun now at mirrorbingo.com.
You know what bugs the experts at Oral-B? Brushing your teeth still leaves plaque bugs behind. Billions of acid-producing, enamel-eating bugs. So they invented Oral-B Vitality, a rechargeable brush under £25. Vitality is pure plaque-busting genius. It moves almost 8,000 times a minute and could destroy twice as much plaque as a manual. Take that, plaque! Plug in Vitality. Recharge your smile. Oral-B Vitality.
I tell you what, that Colin's a laugh. He's just had 2 kebabs. What's the matter?
I lost the folder. All the photographs, all the old film with the kids on it, everything from when they were babies.
Well, why don't we make another one? Yeah, we'll just make another folder. It's all backed up.
Only BT Total Broadband comes with 6 months free Digital Vault, which automatically backs up your PC's precious files and photos. To get a more complete broadband package, go to bt.com.
Welcome back to Watkins Glen, and it's Scott Dixon that is a far and away winner here at the moment. He is well out in front. Will he make it to the end again, taking this win? It's been a year since he has won at IndyCar level, and it was this track that he won at in June last year. Let's go back to our commentators live.
Well, right now, Scott Dixon would pick up 50 points for the win. The question now is he has a 3.3-second lead over Sam Hornish. Franchitti has fallen about 3 seconds behind Hornish, so there doesn't appear to be a great battle on the racetrack right now. The only passing we've seen recently is Danica Patrick.
Yeah, she's made up some ground back there near the back of the field. Scott Dixon just very methodically putting this race away as he doesn't put a foot out of step. Every corner looks to be easy. Every corner looks to be effortless. And Sam Hornish running for all he's worth back there. He doesn't want to make a mistake, though. Second place finish for him here would be a terrific finish.
Well, as Hornish goes up that little incline past the start-finish line, you got just a glimpse there of Dario Franchitti back in third.
Franchitti, I think he's happy to finish in third here today. I don't think he doesn't have to finish any higher. He knows what the point standings mean. He knows where he's at in that situation. And quite honestly, he knows he can't outrun Scott Dixon here today. Scott Dixon's had a lot of things go right, and he's driven the car well. So it's going to be...
We're going to wait and see, though, Larry, who gets the 3 bonus points for leading the most laps. It will likely be Scott Dixon. If that is the case, he would pick up 18 points on Franchitti.
Well, you know, and that's what it takes. You've got a 65-point lead. It only takes 1 or 2 miscues. And Scott Dixon has 2 or 3 races in a row that are really good. And all of a sudden, that points battle gets right back to being close.
There's Dario back in third position. So he came in leading by 65. He could come out of here leading by around 47.
Well, I think, given everything that's happened here today, I think he's pretty happy running in third position. He'd like to do better, but realistically, it doesn't look like he's going to be able to. If he catches Hornish, it's going to be hard to get around. Hornish
can make that car real wide.
Yeah, and Hornish is an aggressive driver any place he runs, so it's going to be difficult.
Marco let him by on team orders, but there will be no team orders when he gets up to Hornish, if he even gets up to Hornish. 5 laps to go. You see the flagman with the fingers extended. 5 laps to go.
So these, all 3 of these guys, looks like Kanaan still gaining on Marco, just ever so slightly, lap after lap. I think when
they may tell Marco to move over for Kanaan too.
Yeah, I don't know. That would be.
Let's see what happens.
Yeah, we'll just see what happens. But I think Kanaan, once they had that bodywork damage when he had that collision with Sam Hornish, it made a difference to the handling of that car. He was much faster before that happened than he has been afterwards.
Well, now it looks like he picked up some ground on Kanaan. There's Marco back in 3rd as we're working down the final 5 laps of this race. Now Kanaan starts to close back in.
Yeah, it appears like he closes in on him in the tighter sections of the course. In the faster section, maybe Marco holds his own. So.
As you look at the point standings coming into this event, Marco was tied with Ed Carpenter for 12th. So you can see where there's only a couple of points difference between Marco's position and Kanaan's position, so maybe they'll just let him race.
Well, Marco, again, this would be a confidence builder if he can run this course and do well. He's always done well at this racetrack. Remember, he and Eddie Cheever had that little shunt and put him out of the race. He very well could have won that race.
Remember last year, during his rookie season, he did win at Infineon. A great ride there. And so he knows that his best shot at a victory this season is going to come on a road course. Although he gave his teammate pressure late in that race last week at Richmond.
He certainly did. He had a good run there at Richmond. And Richmond is the toughest little oval racetrack they run on. It's just a very, very tight, tough course.
And that's also the shortest course that they will see all season long, because now we've got those 2.4-kilometer events like Nashville next week and the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course, and the much larger track at Mid-Ohio, which is 3.2 kilometers. Or at Michigan, the big oval at Michigan. Kentucky, another 2.4 kilometers.
Let's take a look out the back of. He was off right now. It's very easy. We saw Sarah Fisher do that in qualifying. When she did that, she spun the car. You get that car off while it's under power into that sand. After they have those runoff areas, they have a little sand there, and you hit that, you spin that tire a little bit. It's very easy to lose the car and spin out right there.
And we saw Franchitti do that when he went by Marco.
Yeah. So you can run out there and hang on to it, but you got to be careful, because if you're hard under the throttle and spin the tires, it's going to be a problem.
So 3 laps to go. Andretti Green with 3 of the top 5, but right now his target Chip Ganassi out in front as Michael watches the progress of his 3 drivers in the top 5. Sam Hornish for Penske Racing riding in 2nd. 3rd is Franchitti, 4th is Marco, and 5th is Tony Kanaan.
Buddy Rice is hanging on back there in 6th, so he's having a very good run for the Brian Reinbold crew. That's got to be very encouraging for them. That's the best they've done for quite a while.
The only change could come in that 4th position as Kanaan tries to close in on his teammate.
You can see Marco's pressing. He knows Kanaan's coming on him, and he's pressing a little bit. Don't want to make a mistake this late in the race.
You see Marco driving the car and using all the racetrack he possibly can use. Well, and certainly Kanaan, the veteran, would know how to put the pressure on the youngster.
No, that's right. And we've seen, if you can make Castroneves make a mistake, then anybody can make a mistake under pressure.
Tony Kanaan's wife, Danielle, headed back to Brazil for the birth of their daughter. Her baby's due in October. And I said a girl. I heard it was a girl. I may be mistaken. I may not be saying, but anyway, the child is due in October. So Danielle is headed back to Brazil. So Tony's on his own now.
Yeah, she's decided that better off. She's going to be able to have to quit traveling soon. So
there's in 6th position. There's Buddy Rice. Great shot over that right rear wheel. Look at the suspension travel.
And like we said, this Brian Reinbold team steadily improving this year. This is a great run for them. He He actually ran up there in the top 5 most of the second half of this race, and lost a little ground on that last pit stop. But he was off sequence, got himself up there in front, and ran really.
Well, he's turning around the last 3 races because he was 4th at Iowa and was 5th last week at Richmond. So this would go along with those 2 great finishes on those 2 short courses.
Yeah, the 2 short ovals, but on the road course, he hasn't had that good of a finish for a while. And I think the whole team's happy to see him running that well.
Well, right now it would appear to be Scott Dixon's race to win or lose, and this would be his 3rd straight here. This is what he needs to do to have a shot at this championship. He can whittle away at that big points lead that Franchitti had coming in. 65 coming in, and Dixon is going to get the 3 bonus points, so he's going to make up about 18 points in one race on Franchitti.
What do you say? Elio's been 3 times lucky on the pole. Why can't I be 3 times lucky for the win? Well,
let's see what he does in his last lap. One lap to go, and his margin is fairly substantial with 1 lap to go over Sam Hornish at 6.3 seconds. That is a huge margin with 1 lap to go on this racetrack.
Yeah, he can take it pretty easy. He doesn't have to take any real chances on this lap. He knows it. The crew's telling him that. They're telling him the margin that he's got. It was just an absolutely picture-perfect drive for Scott Dixon here today. He took no chances unnecessarily. He had 2 or 3 opportunities when he could have stuck his nose under people and perhaps made the pass, but he perhaps could have taken both of them out too. Very early had a chance on Castroneves, but he decided it was much better to finish this thing, take his chances near the end of the race.
Canan got around Marco for 4th position.
Once his crew put him in front after that last pit stop, it's been Katie bar the doors, they say. He's gone.
After 4 second-place finishes this season, it looks like Dixon's going to pick up his 1st win of the year, his 3rd in a row here at Watkins Glen.
And if you don't think that wasn't burning his gut to not have a victory, you're wrong, because he wanted very badly a couple other times when he was running so well to win, but just couldn't bring it home in 1st place.
Final turn coming up, turn 11. Off that right-hander, the checkered flags, dual checkered flags, and 3 in a row for Target Chip Ganassi.
Well, there's a happy crew. There's his mom. That's Glennis in the brown shirt running back there.
Well, he didn't even take a victory lap. He's doing donuts and the rest of the...
There's his dad. Let's run, Dixon.
Watching you and Scott's Bob, you guys are a nervous wreck during the course of the day. What's it like to be a dad while your son is out there in this great series?
Yeah, it's just a lot of pride. It really is, and it is very nervous. Until it's over, you just can't relax for 1 second, but it's great. It's awesome.
Ron was a racer in his own day, back in the day, but gave up his career to further that of Scott in it.
Well, that was great to see them. Hey, Dylan, happy birthday down there. So Uncle Scott just won your race.
Hey, wait a minute. I have never seen a guy do donuts without at least taking a victory lap. He was still on.
Did you see what they said? Lap. They said, hope you got enough fuel to get back.
Great job, Mike.
July, every single Sky One Simpsons you see has never been seen on any other channel. That should be music to your ears. Exclusive Simpsons, tomorrow from 7 on Sky One.
Just another diamond day, just a blade of grass.
Flex from T-Mobile is constantly adapting to give Flex customers our best deal, and now offers free evening and weekend UK calls. Come in store to find out more.
When is a good deal not a good deal on car insurance?
When you discover that some of the price comparison websites you've been using are actually middlemen.
Direct Line has always cut out the middleman. You can only get a quote from us at directline.com or at one of our UK-only call centres.
That's better.
Direct Line, a good deal better.
2, 3, 4.
Play-proof styles from Shockwaves, making a splash with a red-hot new look. Think shocking red. Think Shockwaves.
Shockwaves. Style attracts play.
Come and join the fun at mirrorbingo.com from the Daily Mirror. Register today and we'll give you £10 to play absolutely free with no deposit required. Tens of thousands of pounds can be won every day. Plus, chat and make friends while you play. Joining the fun now at mirrorbingo.com.
You have to speculate to accumulate.
Here's $100 for your luckiness.
But try to push your luck.
We're just having a little fun here.
And the games really begin.
Kick some ass.
Las Vegas returns Thursday at 9 on Sky One.
Well, it's been all excitement, and I'm not talking about just Scott Dixon winning this race today. You might wonder why I'm slightly flustered. Well, this is the reason why. While you were away, there was fisticuffs in pit lane. Hornish and Kanaan. Hornish obviously unhappy a little bit here with Tony Kanaan, and before you know where you are, Dad's in there as well. And I can bring in Paul Cherry and Tim Scott here. I mean, this is extraordinary.
Well, it all relates to the incident halfway through the race where Hornish went down the inside of Kanaan, and as Paul said, he felt it would have been a black flag. And there's not a love lost between Andretti Green and Penske, and these two, it's fisticuffs. But then it really breaks out. Marco taking his father Michael away from there, and then the mechanics get involved with the official, and yeah, it's pretty unsavoury. But at the same time, I suppose there's a sort of bar fight sort of relish to it all, I suppose.
Well, I've never seen anything quite like this, of course, and I've seen a few things in motorcycle racing in my time, but I must say, never in Indy cars. Watkins Glen has given us some fairly dramatic scenes here today. There's no doubt about it. If you go back to Helio Castroneves has obviously gone out. That's Dan Weldon. Tony Kanaan and Dan Weldon, good friends, of course. And Kanaan, well, there's Sam Hornish. He looks like he's been in a motor race as well as a fight. Incredible scenes, Paul Cherry.
Well, at the end of the day, let's look at it as it was. This was two very hard racers racing for a position, racing for a corner. They touched wheels, heavens above, how many times have they not done that? But this was definitely a little bit out of character. It might boost the ratings for the next race in America probably, but I'm sure Brian Barnhart will be out there with his fine book, and they'll be collecting a few $1,000s towards the nearest charity.
But if we actually look back to how long ago that was in the race, that incident that's obviously been the instigator for this particular shenanigans in pit lane, it's quite a long time ago. There's quite a lot of race gone by. Normally the adrenaline has dissipated a little bit by the time we get to the pit lane, victory lane business.
Well, I wonder if there was a bit of, the flames were fanned over the radio between the crews or what have you, because, as you say, there's a lot gone on, a lot of water under the bridge since then, and they'd be thinking about other things. But I think Hornish is very, very sensitive about this idea that the other drivers say he's no good at road racing because he comes from an oval racing background, and they always criticise him, and it was a ham-fisted move, but I think he's overly sensitive to criticism from the others, and that's probably why he was so hot-headed about it.
Well, let's go back to the track right now, because we can see your race winner. There is no doubt about that. He is Scott Dixon, the New Zealander, and we can see what's going on in victory lane now with our commentators.
Scott Dixon comes out to the applause of his crew as the man that owns Gatorade Victory Lane here at Watkins Glen. Scott, are you ever going to let somebody else get in here and enjoy this? Congratulations.
That was fantastic, man. We had a bit of a rough race there, but our luck seems to go at Watkins. I felt a few spots on the last few laps too, but the Target guys today in the pits were just rocking, man. We had no problems there, and we just had to wait for it to cycle through, but our car was bloody fast.
Let's talk about when you made that pit stop and you had to cycle through. How frustrating was it? Because, let's face it, the front runners were mired in the back.
It's so tough, because you don't know how hard to pass these guys, because you know it is going to cycle through, but it could have been another caution that could have helped them out as well, so it's just one of those things. You got to try and wait, but not to be too cautious as well. So it worked out for us again, and that's what matters.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Well, the type of fisticuffs that we have just witnessed is not what we normally see at an IndyCar Series event.
Now
this is during the race.
This is what led to it. Sam was on the inside. They got together. Now, you know, that can be called either way. Sam, was he up far enough? I don't know. Kanan's going to say, no way you're up far enough to make that
look
pass.
Look at this. This is after the race was over. This is what got him fired up.
That's what caused.
Kanan came back and slammed into Harnish, and Harnish is getting out of the car. He is furious, and he's going after Kanan. He doesn't jump him. They're just talking right now. And here comes Sam Harnish Sr.
That guy back there in the blue
away.
The guy there in the blue jeans beside Michael, he's the guy that got in the fight with his dad. Let's go down to Vince. Well, I thought he was going to have a word with Kanan.
Well, Tony Kanan has been watching that replay, as guys, just as you are watching it. And TK, what was going on? First of all, take us back to the incident on the track when the two of you had contact. What transpired?
Well, I got to ask him. He hit me. I think when you hit somebody from behind, and I wasn't very happy, and I got out of the car to talk to him. And I think he needs his dad to defend himself all the time, and his dad bumped me, which I think is totally wrong. It's happened in the track. We need to sort it out between me and him, and if we can't sort it out, Brian Barton has to sort it out. His dad can't get in the way and bump me out of the way like that. We're not going to fight. I was not going to go punch him. We were obviously both hot, and we're talking about what happened, and I think they should let us talk about it. And his dad getting in the way and bumps me out of the way. I mean, that's why dads, they should be in the grandstands, not in the pits.
Let's go to Brian Pettigo.
Well, Sam, it was your best road course finish ever, but unfortunately got overshadowed a bit by what just happened. Walk us through this.
I guess I'll start back to the incident on the track. Tony and I, I got a run on him going down into turn 6, and he just didn't give me room, ran me up on the curb, and basically, there was nowhere to go there, and I couldn't get out of it, and obviously we bumped a little bit. Neither one of us spun. He ended up finishing 4th in, and then he runs into me coming into the pits, and starts calling me every name under the sun. But whatever. That's he wants to talk about what a great sport he is, and he is if one of his teammates wins. But if anybody else does better than he does, he's not very good. And I'm not really that worried about it from my point of view. I'm in the car, but you start running into people coming into pit lane, you take the chance of jeopardizing all these guys' safety that are over the wall. They're not paying attention to what's going on. The race is over. They don't think there's going to be anything going on. So it's just an unfortunate deal. And I just got to say I'm really proud of all my guys at Team Penske. We felt for a long time that we should have been getting these top 5, top 3 finishes, and haven't been able to get the job done for whatever reason, getting ran into or losing the brakes or whatever. And it was just a nice day to be able to come out here and to have a good run. And
next season, Sky Sports will bring you more Premiership games than ever before. 92 matches, including the big head-to-heads. And no more pay-per-view games. We've got the FA Cup, Carling Cup, Scottish Cup, Spanish League and Football League. Plus the playoffs, the best of the Champions League. Internationals from England, Scotland, Wales and the Republic of Ireland. Sky Sports, a new season and all the football you'll ever need.
Pay cuts, spending cuts, job cuts. Isn't there ever any good news?
We're happy to announce that BT keeps cutting its school package prices.
Sorry, it's good. No, I like it, it's very nice.
Anytime call plan, now only $7.95 a month.
You know what bugs the experts at Oral-B? Brushing your teeth still leaves plaque bugs behind. Billions of acid-producing, enamel-eating bugs. So they invented Oral-B Vitality, a rechargeable brush under £25. Vitality is pure plaque-busting genius. It moves almost 8,000 times a minute and could destroy twice as much plaque as a manual. Take that, plaque! Plug in Vitality. Recharge your smile. Oral-B Vitality.
QuickFit always gives great value on premium tyres. This month, there's 25% off when you buy 4 Bridgestone tyres.
Did you hear that, Bernard?
QuickFit will fix it.
School summer holidays from £499 for the whole family. Call now or go online at havenholidays.com. Haven, the great family get-together.
The World at War. The definitive history of World War II.
Get your latest free DVD offer with tomorrow's Daily Mail.
Welcome back to the Sky Sports studio for this week's IndyCar coverage. We've had a moment of contemplation and time to catch our breath here. So let's take a look now at the confirmed results and standings and cross to America for that.
As we take a look at the unofficial results, Dixon third in a row here at Watkins Glen. Hornish, great finish for him. Second, then Dario, Kanaan, and Andretti. So three of the top five from Andretti. We're going to take a look at the rest of the top 10. So ugliness in the pit area, and I think probably precipitated by Tony Kanaan kind of making some contact on that pit entrance, because those guys could have talked about that when the race was over. But all you-know-what broke out as Tony Kanaan got involved with Sam's dad. As you take a look now at the point standings, as Dixon does start to close in, and there it is, 47 points. So he picked up 18 points here this afternoon, but then Tony Kanaan picks up a position, but he's 75 back. Weldon loses a position, he's 81 back. So right now it looks still like Dario Franchitti's championship to win. If he has any snafus or hiccups, it's going to be Dixon. And 1 week from last night, next Saturday, don't forget night racing from Nashville Superspeedway, Nashville, Tennessee.
And of course you can see that live here on Sky Sports as well with us. Even the Americans are promoing Sky Sports coverage of next time round. Right, we've had time to calm down a little bit here at the moment. Let's start talking about the serious part of the business rather than the end of lane adrenaline rush that one or two of the drivers and their fathers. I love the quote though, I must just go with that for the moment. That's why Dad should be in the grandstand, says Tony Kanaan. We've all suffered from that at some stage. For me, the turning point of the race was, of course, the Helio Castroneves crash. We can take a look at that in just a moment or two, and perhaps you can talk us through it, because this was a crucial part of the race. He was on pole. He looked pretty well set the way the car was going and the way it was hooked up. But then all of a sudden, across that patch on the tarmac there, Paul Cherry, just got away from him. There was no saving act, and there's certainly no runoff here, is there?
Yes, I think, a couple of 3 laps before, Scott had a number of pushes to check out where he really could get past Helio, and there were a couple of places on the track where he could have done that. So Helio was on notice that Scott was not going to settle for a second place. So Helio, by consequence, was pushing very, very hard. And as Tim said about them laying these ridiculous ribbons and not blending them in, if you look in your mirrors while you're going around the corner, you're going to get caught out. As Tim Cindric said, Helio doesn't wake up in the morning and make these silly mistakes. You do that sort of thing when you are really under pressure, and these were 2 hard guys going at it.
And Dario Franchitti quite fortunate as well, running through the debris on the track there, Tim, and getting away with that, deciding to stay out, not change tyres. It worked out for him, didn't it, in the end?
Sure. I mean, his race could have been ruined, as could Scott's at that stage. They both survived unscathed. For Helio Castroneves, I mean, he was livid, wasn't he, walking down the pit lane, and with himself, no one else. It's no one else's fault. But that is him out of the championship, and that's not the first time actually we've seen him make a mistake this year. And we've talked about this last couple of weeks with the short ovals, that Penske things have not been going smoothly, and really Helio now is out of the championship.
Talking of short ovals, you touched on it a few times during our segments in the middle of the race. Of course, with a long racetrack like this, yellow flags, caution periods take on greater significance as far as that was concerned. And AJ Foyt, he took a bit of a spin out of this as well and caused us another caution period, which obviously gave some of the drivers and some of the teams an option again to get out of sequence, Paul.
Well, yes, I mean, the beauty of the road course is, as we said, you get such a long lap, and especially if it goes yellow. I mean, AJ Foyt, he's just mucked up a reasonable afternoon for himself. He's not a road course guy, he's generally an oval guy. But he didn't do any real damage, he just got beached there. He got pushed off and everything got going. I would think a yellow flag lap, you're probably looking at 3.5 minutes. There's nothing to clear up, the guy's on his way. That gives people a chance to make the decisions. Even on the short tracks, a yellow lap is only going to be twice what a racing lap is, so you're 40 seconds. So there's still not a lot of time to make decisions, and now people can calculate. It's much more of a science.
Science. Well, I like a bit of science when it comes to this. Kind of the appliance of science. Vita Mira thought he'd got the scientific calculations worked out perfectly because he got himself out of sequence. But we speculated that he might well have enough fuel to make this work for him. But sadly,
Well, it's funny, isn't it? Because the other cars that were out on the same strategy as him managed to get back to the pits. So whether the Panther team had short-filled him slightly by mistake on his previous pit stop, or he'd just, was using too much fuel, he got taken back to the pits. He managed to get refueled and carry on. But really, teams at this level should not be running out of fuel round the back of the track. It's a pretty schoolboy mistake.
But at that point, the schoolboy mistake actually fell into Dan Weldon's hands, in as much as the Vita Mira, being that he was stopped on the track right in the place where he couldn't be retrieved easily, they obviously sorted things out. Then we had this situation. Of course, this ran and run, didn't it, really? Hornish and Canaan, with Darren Manning, the cheeky chappy, you'll see him in a minute, ever the opportunist, nipping up the inside as well underneath Canaan. But that's when it all started, wasn't it? Hornish up the inside of Canaan, being bumped out of the way. Now you can see the wheel marks on the side of his AirPods there on Canaan's car. There it is. Look at the damage on the side there. Now, Paul Cherry, at the time you said, Hornish up the inside in most other open wheel sports, that would have been taken as too much of an aggressive attack on Tony Kanaan.
Yeah, I mean, Tony had the line, and that mark on the side pod is the front wheel of Hornish's car, not the rear wheel. So that's how far Sam was alongside Tony when Tony was turning in. And the general rule of thumb is, when you're on the corner, if the guy's got the line, he's got the line. That's aggressive. Now, as we said, these are two hard guys. You don't want to get into a bar fight with either Tony Kanaan or Sam Hornish,
or their dads, it would appear,
or their dads, but you don't even want to do that on the track. I mean, these are hard racers. Sam, as he said in his post-race interview, he got a run on Tony, thought he could barge through. Tony is not the sort of bloke who's going to look in his mirror and go, oh gosh, this guy's going to really have a go at me, I'm out the way. He's holding his line.
Well, of course, while all this was going on, Dan Weldon had managed to make his way up through the order until it came to the pit stop, and then again found himself with just a bit of a problem here. Couldn't quite work out what was going on. It looks like the rear jacks, when they went to drop them off, I think Danica Patrick got out in front and various others did as well. It's certainly a problem at the rear end there, Paul.
Yeah, well, what's happened there, they put a manual jack in the back. These cars have onboard pneumatic jacks. There's three, two in the front, one at the rear. Thing goes up. Clearly, the rear one didn't go up, hence why they put a manual jack there, and that's cost them 4 seconds.
And a place or two. Now then, let's talk about Dario Franchitti. He finished third in this race, Tim. He was leading the series. He still is leading the series, but with 50 points plus whoever the 3 points for the most led laps in any given race, it can soon be eaten away, can't it?
It can. He's down to 47 points leading now, and that's less than a maximum score, although if you start a race you get 12 naturally anyway. But it's a good day at the office for him. He came here. We've seen Elio Castroneves have an accident. We've seen Dan Weldon have a bad result. Things can easily go wrong. He's come away with a third place. That's job done. Dario enjoys the road courses. We've got 3 road courses in the next 6 races. If he keeps on finishing like that, then I think he can sew the championship up. But Dixon is clearly very, very strong and his closest rival.
Scott Dixon has looked good, but he hasn't won a race since this race last year. Is this the point where he now begins to get back into that winning mode, do you believe, Paul?
Well, we did say the same question last year, and he went on to not win many races. In fact, didn't win any more until today. The thing, as we've often said with this style of racing, Indy racing, the points variation makes consistency the key to everything. As Timmy's just touched on, as long as Dario keeps himself in that top 3 all the time, he hasn't got to go out and win any more races. He's just got to be very consistent. Maybe pick up some laps led, maybe pick up pole position, but there's no need to panic now. The only thing is, though, if he has a DNF for any reason and Scott wins a race, suddenly he's 3 behind.
Tim?
And the thing that is it's funny, because Dario's been saying since last week and since Indy 500 and all the rest, since he's been leading the championship, I'm not thinking about the championship, taking each race as it comes, and that's obviously correct. But the team is, because there's no doubt that Marco Andretti who was running third, let Dario up into third place, and then Dario made a mistake, kicked up the dust, and Marco backed off his attempt to repass. So Andretti Green, the team, are already thinking about the championship. It's strategy from here on in.
Certainly is, and we can cross back, I think, to the track now to see some of the victory lane celebrations that are going on over there. I'm sure you'd want to share those with us.
And Scott Dixon.
So Scott Dixon jumps out of the Target Chip Ganassi car. And it doesn't look like we're going to hear from Scott Dixon at this particular point, but enjoying himself no end, I would say. Let's go back to the Marco Andretti side of things there. Marco Andretti finishing in 4th place. Good drive from him again, the young man. He's really a name of the future. I know Andretti, the dynasty, is huge, but Marco didn't necessarily have to have the talent to follow on, did he?
Well, obviously not. Look at AJ Foyt, dear old Marco. He came here, thinking that he's had a very bad season, and he really wanted a good result here. He nearly got one last year. He went off the strategy norm by taking different fuel strategy, and it nearly paid off for him. He was quick. He was never, but no one was ever quicker than Scott Dixon this weekend, including Marco. I think he could have held off Dario if he'd had to and taken 3rd. It would have been a good result. He's a guy who's tested an F1 car. He's got a big future and clearly relishes these road races.
Kanaan 5th behind Marco Andretti, but then comes Buddy Rice, the first American in the frame. Looked very good as well throughout the race today.
Yeah, Buddy's been showing quite strongly in these last 3 races, and moving out of Rahal Letterman, everybody said that was the end, he would disappear into obscurity. He's actually taken the job with Brian Reinbold, probably on very small money, but he's actually re-established himself as a very strong racer, because Brian Reinbold don't have anything like the resources of Andretti, Green, Ganassi, or indeed Rahal Letterman. So no, what he's done is fantastic. That's as good as winning the race for him.
Dan Weldon 7th, Darren Manning in 9th place. Tim, quickly. Good result for Darren, perhaps not so good for Dan.
I think Darren would have thought he could have got better. For some reason he seemed to, his times fell off at the end, towards the end of the race. I think he would have been happier with the top 6. Dan Weldon, mysterious day, isn't it? I mean, Dan, he's not better as a road racer than some of these other guys, but he's not bad. He's won at St. Petersburg. I don't really understand why he had such an off day, and he needs to get his form up and running on these road courses.
Indeed. So that's about it for a very big day of motorsports on both sides of the Atlantic. The IndyCar Series continues with its weekly schedule, and back on the ovals with a night race. And it's here live, of course, on Sky Sports 2 early next Sunday morning at midnight. It's the Firestone Indy 200 under the lights at Nashville Superspeedway. And a good one that's going to seem as well. But for now, all that's left this week is to thank my guests, Tim Scott and Paul Cherry, and to thank you for watching. We'll leave you now with some highlights from Watkins Glen. Bye-bye.
More sport, news and views at skysports.com.